Don't laugh too hard, okay, Rich? Does this, fit your criteria for dolled up? I was feeling kind of desperate for his attention at that moment, standing at the top of the staircase leading from where my big sis's room door was open. I mean, I was humiliated myself in front of him by wearing her clothes. The least Richie could do was look at me and laugh in my face about it. Gloat over how he won another stupid bet between us. Or tell me to knock it off and we will go back to playing Street Fighter. Instead, the second Richie saw me in this getup from the bottom floor, he clammed up, about turned, and darted straight for the kitchen, leaving me with nothing but a weak reply of "need some water." Was I really that ugly? Not that I should care, of course. 15-year-old band geeks like myself are not known for being stunners, and usually I was no exception. At 5 feet 7 inches and a measly 135 pounds, I was another runt in the back of the classroom. I mostly wore boring neutral sweaters and capri shorts. As to not bring much attention to myself in fear on being bullied. My scraggy and uncombed black hair flopped over my eyes to prevent any wayward glances as well. Thusly, I was not a very popular guy. The only friends I had I met in band, and even then, I hovered just outside their social circles and conversations. All save for Rich. Richard Cartwright saw himself as the next Kenny G of the saxophonist world, and always played his brass beauty with showboating bravado and a confident facade during practice, looking to everyone like a superstar. Too bad his musical talent was subpar at best, and obnoxious almost always. He sat next to me in the wind section, where I was often asked to help him out his finger positions and timing. Somehow, we became close friends despite how different our social lives were. Richie seeking the limelight in every situation, and me choosing to hide in the corner as my best option. We both shared a love for prog rock and grunge, and had similar tastes in video games, superheroes, comedians, and food, and of course, after school and during our online sessions of Apex, we would chat about whatever girls in our class were the hottest, what it would like to date them, if either of us had any idea on how to approach one of them. Safe to say we were both hopeless in attempts at mingling with the other sex, me being a coward who would stutter when just talking to my lab partner, and Rich coming on too hard and getting a face full of rejection each time. Which leads us to today. I walked into the kitchen after Rich taking extra time to mind the 3-inch peach-colored high heels I had on. On shaky, but still solid enough to strut footing, I approached Rich, who had his back turned to me and his hand in the sink wasting a gallon of running water trying to wash a single glass. I tapped his shoulder. "Aw." Rich yelped and quickly twisted his head around to face me, but still avoiding eye contact. "Oh hey, Benji. Just looking for a clean cup, that's all." "What's up?" "You left perfectly good cup on the coffee table, remember?" "What's up with you? You're acting all jumpy right now." "Jumpy? Me?" "Nah, just itching to get back to the game, that's all." Rich nodded over towards the living room where the character select menu on Street Fighter V had been looping for the past 2 hours. Then he quickly glanced at my lips, which were now covered in cherry red lip gloss. I sighed. This was not all the reaction I was expecting from him. I knew I probably looked like an idiot wearing Carla's stuff and was prepared for a heavy ribbing from my pal, not to regard it as such a freak that he could hardly look at me. The hell was his problem? This stupid dare was his idea in the first place. I figured I'd given him plenty of time to prepare for this disaster. But now here's Rich quivering like a nervous wreck, which weirdly enough I could not relate to. My initial anxiety had washed away. Now I was just confused and annoyed. "Look, Rich, obviously you can't stand facing me right now. I get. I must look at a freak drag queen or something heinous. It was your stupid dare and now it's over. Go sit on the couch and wait for me to get all this gunk off my face and we'll play again. Or better yet, just leave and we'll forget this ever happened, okay? My voice was raised by the end, and Rich could tell I was upset. Exactly why I was that upset, I wasn't sure. However, Rich then looked me in the eyes for the first time since I stepped down. Whoa, relax, Benji. I don't think you're a freak or whatever. You look fine, great actually. Great? Whoa, that wasn't the reaction I was expecting at all. The butterflies in my tummy starting fluttering back to life as I questioned my friend's choice of words. Yeah. I mean, you look like a real girl, pretty and stuff. I hardly recognized you when called me to see. Sorry for running off like that, I guess I must have gotten spooked. Oh, okay, thanks. Wait, why was I thanking him? Since when did I take pretty as a compliment? I guess the roller coaster of emotions I was riding had twisted up my reaction. I'm just happy all my effort dressing up hadn't gone to waste. That must be it. But what do you mean by spooked? You thought I was someone else? At first, maybe. Like, maybe you flipped the prank back on me and somehow brought Carla down instead to fool me? But when I heard your voice and realized it was you, I was kinda taken aback. Rich paused for a second to gather his thoughts. I'm better now though, it's fine. You don't have to change out anything. Unless you wanna, of course. It's up to you. Nah, I am fine, and I've already wasted enough time dressing today. Sorry for wait, let's just get back to the game already. Sure, all right. I'm down for that, exclaimed Rich, stepping towards the living room. Then, with a small, wary smile, he added, I guess I underestimated how far you'll go for a bet. Up for another? Right, the bet. Always the class clown, Rich played plenty of mostly harmless gags on the kids at school and a few of his teachers, but his charming smile and bright hazel eyes managed to disarm most kids' ire towards him, including mine. And thus, as his best friend, I would endure Rich's pranks the most. And whether it getting was my lunch bag swapped with a sack of cottage cheese, or finding my bike wrapped in a litter of party streamers, Rich's jovial attitude and willingness each to help clean up afterward made me appreciate it more as light ribbing between friends. Often, we would make bets and dare each other into silly situations to keep ourselves entertained after a long session of after-school band practice. Which leads us to today, a perfectly clear Saturday afternoon with just the two of us chilling in my living room playing a few rounds of the recent Street Fighter V update. I had the house to myself since Mom and Dad were taking Carla to tour colleges. Depending on how picky my sis was about her potential new dorm, they may be gone the whole weekend, so they entrusted me with some spare money for groceries if the need arises. Frankly, fridge was overstuffed thanks to my worrywart father, so I wisely pocketed the cash and called Rich over for game time. Inevitably, we begun betting between rounds. For money at first, but then we started upping the stakes with which characters we could play as. I won owned where Rich could only play as Ryu or Ken, the most predictable characters, which wasn't too harsh since Rich wasn't the most advanced player anyways. Then he won one and banned from playing any male fighters, which again was fine by me since I had been practicing Chun-Li, Laura, and Karen on my own for a while now. At some point it got zany. I had just one permission to drive Rich's father's Tacoma, which Rich practicing to drive with. Finally, Rich got the bold idea that since I liked playing girl characters so much that I should dolling myself up as one with my sister's clothes. I called him a pervert, but he didn't lighten up, but instead sweetened the deal by saying he'll pay for the food tonight, my pick. Despite already having enough to cover lunch, my confidence in my skills and hubris after my last win tipped me over the edge, and I stuck my hand out to accept his offer. And so, I found myself locked in Carla's bedroom, almost in a fit after pleading with Rich, rushing upstairs, and dreading what was to come next. "Has to be pretty, else it doesn't count," laughed Rich from downstairs. I ignored his hollering and set myself to settling the stair as soon as possible, and hopefully with my dignity intact. Initially, I planned to just grab a black t-shirt and whatever jeans I could find from her drawer and toss them on. And I did just that, not even bothering to take off my socks. But then, when I checked myself in the mirror, all I saw was me. Sure, the jeans were cut a slightly different way to emphasize my calves, and the purple rose embossed on the shirt was gaudy, but honestly it was just me again. That didn't really fit the theme of the bet. I knew Rich was just going to harass me again if I went back down there, and I didn't feel like half-ass another bet in case he skimped out on his promises in return. So, I creeped out in Carla's room and into the bathroom and eyed some of her hair products and a few shaving sticks. I picked up a small pink one and glanced it over, questioning myself far I was willing to go with this. Rationalizing do so would perhaps freak out Rich and give him pause about suggesting this ever again. I went to the extreme and began shaving off all my body hair in the shower. The plan I was formulating required bare skin to be shown. Even in my previous half-hearted attempt, I hadn't liked how my arm hair spoiled the look. I applied some of Carla's 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner to my hair, since I couldn't remember the last time I'd actively washed it, and I figured my usually unkempt mop wouldn't look that convincing on a girl. Once I toweled off and lotioned up, I headed back into Carla's room and rooted once more in her wardrobe. I didn't really know how to put together an outfit, but Rich and I had talked enough about what the girls at school wore that I knew what he was into. I found a striped short-sleeve red and cream turtleneck in her bottom drawer, alongside a white skirt that fell below my knee. Scrummaging a bit more, I withdrew a black patent belt, and with a quick test around my waist, figured it was great addition to my outfit. Or disguise, rather. Costume? I wasn't quite what to call what I was doing, but that wasn't my most pressing issue at that moment. Instead, I was contemplating what I was going to wear underneath all that. Up until now I hadn't felt all that squeamish about raiding my sister's room. She'd done the same to me over the years, looking for spare socks or combs. But as I opened the top drawer and gazed at the array of bras, panties, stockings, and other dainty slips, I hesitated to reach my hand in. Surely this was going a bit too far, right? Rich wasn't going to see any of this, and I definitely didn't need to wear such feminine undergarments. But then I noticed the lack of hair on my forearms, smelt the slight waft of strawberries coming from my hair, and realized I had already gone off the deep end. "In for a penny, in for a pound," I said to myself as I quickly snatched a white lace bra and panty set. And then after some reflection, I grabbed a pair of Clara's gray yoga shorts. Inspecting the bra for some dressing tips and finding none, I sighed, unclasped it, and hurriedly struggled to put it on. After an embarrassing minute or two, I finally felt it secure behind me, with the clasps over my shoulders and resting quite comfortably to my surprise. Well, obviously there was nothing filling out the front, however the band did fit snugly to my chest, and my lack of body hair was again noticeably as the feel of delicate lace felt soothing across my now softer skin. Not letting myself linger on that sensation, I grabbed the lace panties and set about addressing the elephant in the room. Well, maybe elephant was a bit of an exaggeration. But still too large for Girlie to have seen under her skirt. I donned the panties slowly, its lace causing chills to course across my smooth legs. Tucking my pygmy elephant underneath me, the garment slid into place. And as to have anything jostle around, I slipped the yoga shorts on top. I reached back into the drawer to find, what do you know, a missing pair of my socks, balled them up, and stuffed them into the empty cavities of the bra, as its loose swinging was starting to bother me. With the frills out of the way, I quickly put on the sweater, skirt, and belt combo. The only issue being that it was kind difficult to slip my head through the neck hole and over my chest, but eventually everything settled into place. I popped in front of the full-body mirror to assess the damage. And besides the wound dignity on my face, everything seemed to be in place. Phase 2, my increasingly incredulous plan worked out. Popping back to Carla's vanity, I started on phase 3, makeup. Knowing that only Rich would be seeing me, I imagined he would excuse my lack of experience at the trade. But still, my plan was to leave an impression, so well-applied makeup was entirely necessary to hide my boyish features. I opened my phone's web browser and searched through a plethora of makeup tutorial vids, and finally came across one that looked simple enough for me to pull off, but natural and elegant to be convincing. I didn't want to come across as a drag queen. I didn't have the self-confidence or feisty demeanor for that. Instead, I attempted to match the styles I saw on the girls at school. Following my guide closely, I applied moisturizer, primer, and foundation across my face to brighten my complexion a bit and make my skin look younger. Next, heavy brushes, concealer, and powder were used to mask the harsher edges of my chin, cheekbones, and under my eyes. My normally messy and unseen eyebrows were brushed into arches, then coat with mascara alongside my eyelashes. Pulling out what seemed like Carla's most used palette, bronzer, and eyeshadow, I dusted some light color on my cheeks. Red and peach, to match the outfit. Lastly, a quick dollop of cherry red lip gloss to make my whole face pop. I hoped I hadn't overdone it, as trying to redo all of this would take another 30 minutes, and I was too anxious to finish this madness to consider extending it even more. Also, Carla would surely notice if by Monday a huge portion of her makeup kit went missing. Grabbing a brush and large comb, I went to work on my hair, untangling and wrangling it into a more relaxed style. Surprisingly, my black tresses ended up coming to the bottom of my ears when properly washed and straightened. I pulled open the white drawers of the vanity and found a red hairband I'd never seen my sister wore, along with some clip-on earrings. The earrings hurt my lobes a bit, and their added weight was awkward at first, but the star-shaped opals were too stunning to pass up. And for the first time in 5 years, I parted my hairband, pushed it back with the hairband. Cherry red seemed to be my color for that afternoon, as I moved forward to polish my finger and toes nails in it. Of course, I double-checked to see if there was still enough remover left to clean off the evidence of my misdoings once I was done. I looked over the bottle's label to see a recommends drying time of 15 minutes, then leaned back in the desk chair and gazed up at the ceiling to both ponder over whether I'd missing something crucial and how much of an idiot I was for dressing as a chick in the first place. "You didn't fall asleep on me, did you, Benji?" I heard call out a bored and understandably irritated Rich. "Come on, it's been over an hour already and your pop is all stale now." I cracked the door open to shout downstairs. "I'll be done soon, just hold up. You asked for this, remember? Just practice your combos some more in the meantime. They need all the help they can get." While I was roasting him, I spotted some peach-toned open-toed raised sandals. Seeing as they were only 3 inches high, I slipped them on, careful as to not smudge off any nail polish. "I've been doing that, man, and hey, my combos are just fine, thank you very much." Rich slumped back at the couch, clearly exasperated. Good, I was worried he would barge in here and see me unfinished for a second there. Thankfully, I was nearly done. All I needed was one final assessment. I spat up off the counter, span around and stood in front of the mirror. And I couldn't see myself. I blinked a bit, then touched the glass panel to double-check that the mirror was indeed still there. It was cool to the touch and confirmed that the girl within it mimicking my actions was indeed supposed to be me. And in a few ways, she was. She was the same height as me, although it suited her appearance more so than it did mine. Her shoulders were kinda broad, but the puffy cuffs of the sweater's sleeves helped mitigate it. And she seemed as timid and frightened at what beheld her vision as I must have looked. However, in many ways the boy known as Benjamin Graziano had been erased, and an altogether more entrancing figure had taken his place. My hairless legs looked slim and ladle-like coming out of that white skirt, and the tightly clenched belt gave the illusion of womanly curves that shouldn't exist. The top with its modest bust line also gave the impression of a well-endowed young woman ready to hit a night on the town. My painted nails, my hands and feet looked downright dainty, and the heels I had slipped on weren't helping matters either. Yet the most striking difference was on my face. I could see my eyes. And they were huge, thanks on part to the copious amounts of mascara I had used. I blinked again and noticed how my now glossy and proper hairdo framed my face and highlighted my jewel-adorned ears. My ruby lips quivered as nervous chills raced across my body. I began taking deep breaths to calm down my quickened heart rate. As a boy, I had never considered myself traditionally attractive. I was the geek that found comfort living in the fringes of everyone's vision. But this new female vision in front of me looked like she deserved to shine under the spotlight. Perhaps not supermodel material, but still a girl that could turn a few heads her way walking down a school hallway. A girl I would only dream of getting a chance to talk to. And now, I was her. Was I? Did I want to be her? I couldn't though. I'm supposed to be a guy. This is all a joke, right? Was I overpraising myself, or do I really look like that? I needed a second opinion immediately, just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Rich would set me straight. He'd tell me whether I was hallucinating or not. I probably just look like I'm stuck in a lousy Halloween costume to anyone else. I mumbled to myself, unsure if I wanted that statement to be true or false. I inched open Carla's bedroom door, and carefully walked over towards the stairs, grasping that banister as I was still wobbly from the heel and whatever feelings I had tumbling about my pretty head. Steeling myself for Richie's response, I called down for him. Don't laugh too hard, okay, Rich? Does this, fit your criteria for dolled up? Hello? Benji? Rich asked with an uneasy tilt to his voice. Despite say he was okay, he was clearly walking on eggshells with his banter, and must have been afraid he'd just crush one when I had zoned out. Snapping back to now, I quickly tried to reassure him. Sorry, just thinking back. How about we cool it with the bets today, eh? I said. Right, I guess I've already taken it too far today. Guess you'll be getting your first driving lesson in heels today, joked Rich, finding his footing again. I laughed. Right, this was all just for a silly bet. Nothing to get worked up about. I'm still the same Benji I always, just now I could with a slight breeze beneath me. I tried to act as casually as I could as I retook my spot on the couch. "'Kay, where we're again. 3 out of 5 rounds, right? Hope you're prepared?" I joked, mustering up a bit of bravado. However, it was slightly undone as the couch's black pleather lining now made my bare legs break into goosebumps. I repositioned myself by tucking my legs up and underneath me in the seat, inadvertently striking a quite feminine pose. I spied my glossy red fingernail again as I reached for the controller, a bit startled at the sight but trying my best not to let it show on my face. Rich, of course, noticed all of this as well. But, to his credit, he pretended not to and resumed our session. Soon we got back into the groove of things, chilling out as buds again. And aside from the brush off my arm against my padded chest, I soon forgot I was wearing anything unusual at all. With the gambling done for the day, we fell back to light retorts and friendly jabs at each other whenever we won or lost. However, despite his claims of practicing during my makeover, Rich seemed off his game, distracted almost. I caught him taking quick glances at me mid-fight, especially when I would shift a leg and the skirt swish a bit from the movement, almost mesmerizing him. Well, what did I expect? I must have made for an odd sight, a teen boy dressing head to toe in his sister's church wear looking dainty as all hell. And apparently pretty and great according to Rich. I silently hoped that whatever he meant by that was as innocuous as it should be. As we headed into the final round, I was starting to get annoyed by his wandering eyes. So, I concocted a plan to expose this weakness in Rich's defense. Clearing my throat, I attempted to shift my voice up an octave or two and workshopped a line to tease Rich a bit. I struck whilst he was mid-combo. "Would you be a dear and pass me that pillow, Richie?" I cooed in the most feminine tilt I could, gesturing elegantly towards him in a suggestive manner. Rich yelped and dropped the combo along with his controller and did a double take at me, clearly flummoxed by what he just heard. A coy smile came across my face as I added care to lend a lady a helping hand. Rich ducked down to pick up the controller the floor, stammering something underneath his breath. His other hand had amusingly reached out for the pillow, which I didn't really need. I took the opportunity to deliver an underhanded super move to Rich's dazed fighter, ending the match 3-2 with me the victor. Game, set, and match. "What's the matter, Richie? No crude comebacks?" "Cat's got your tone. Were you simply bewitched by my charm?" I taunted, crossing my legs as I did so to add to the illusion. Still stunned, Rich turned to me, pillow by his lap, and shouted, "What the hell was that, Benji?" "Was what?" I teased again. "Your voice. What did you do to your voice?" Dropping the act, I shifted my stance forward into a regular squat and laughed in my normal register. "Just getting some payback, Rich. I figured a little acting would be enough to shock you, but I didn't expect I'd work that well." "Yeah, well, that only because that voice sounded so, real, you know? Like, did you practice it upstairs or have you?" "No," I cut him off right there. "First time trying it, and I'm just as surprised as you at how good that was." "Not too hard to keep up either," I said, slowly shifting back into the girl voice near the end of my sentence to demonstrate. "And just for the record, this is my first time dressing up like this, ever. I'm not a crossdresser or anything, Richie." "Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking that at all, Benji. Just curious, that's all." Rich had settled down now and finally noticed the television screen declaring his, admittedly unlawful, defeat. "Ugh," Rich moaned, "that's completely unfair, bro. I want a rematch." Rich looks down and sees the pillow I request in his hands and tosses it at me. Giggling, I dodge a bit, yet the fluffy projectile still smacks me square in the chest. No damage done, but it did loosen my stuffed bra a bit. Rich laughs, but then swiftly turns away as I make some adjustments. "Man, you completely distracted the whole game. I would have won even if I didn't dupe you. Now be honest, I saw you looking over at me during the round." Rich squirmed a bit in his seat. "Is this girl outfit really bothering you that much? Because I have no problem changing if it does." "I promise I'll be faster this time," I said. "Look, I said it was fine, all right. They're just clothes," argued Rich. However, he combed his finger through his short blonde curls and truculently added, "But this does feel sort of different from just hanging out with the regular you dot." "What do you mean? Different how? Promise not to get too mad at me for this?" How should I say this? This was odd indeed. Rich was never on the mince with words. At school, he always seemed like he knew exactly what he wanted to say at any time, even if it wasn't exactly the right thing. The only times Rich's mouth refused to work were he tried to pick up girls. A disconcerting chill went through my body as I waited for Rich to finish. "Okay, no offense, but I thought you were kinda a small guy. Not to say that bad or anything, you just haven't reached your growth spurt yet. Some chicks dig small guys even." I nodded, declining to mention I had actually grown 4 inches since junior high. Rich continued. "But that's why I figured the girls' clothes joke would funny or something. Honestly, wasn't even expecting you to really do it, and it's get you with another dare, but he paused to gather his thoughts. I wondered if should have stuck to Carla's boring shirt and jeans after all. Your hair, your face, the skirt, your, upper region, it all looks way too real, dude. Like, you look better than any of the cheerleaders this year, and I'm not saying that as a joke. For whatever reason I started blushing, and a real rose color came to my cheeks, overshadowing my makeup. It was a pretty awkward position to be in. A guy saying you look attractive despite as the wrong gender, and that guy being your best friend no less. Unsure as to what I should say, I responded with a small thanks. Rich straightened up a bit. Seriously? I said before, I totally couldn't recognize you when you stepped out, so I got confused. You know what I'm like around girls? All tongue-tied and shit. And that voice trick you're pulling right now takes it to a whole nother level. I'm all sorts of frazzled right now. So not to sound like a flake, but I'm not sure if can keep playing as it is. Right now? Shit. I hadn't noticed I was still using the girly voice so far. That's disconcerting. Normally impressions are supposed to take effort to keep up, right? Maybe I had career ahead of me as a vocal talent if I can manage to keep my voice straight. I coughed a little to clear and relax my throat and returned my attention back to Rich. Yeah, I'm kinda tired of SF today anyways. Wanna switch to something else? I think I have a few more co-op games we haven't tried yet. Or maybe watch some Netflix. Better yet, said Rich, it's about time I honored my side of the bet. Grab your coat and the cash your mom left, and we'll start your driving lesson. You're sure? Isn't your dad super paranoid about anyone touching his truck? Especially you, let alone me? He's just blowing smoke. I drive it all the time, and he hasn't noticed anything out of place yet. It'll be fine, as long as you don't start doing donuts in the parking lot, that is. Come on, trust me, I'm too terrified to even put a car in reverse, let alone stunt in one. Awesome, give me a sec to go change, okay? I stood and turned towards the stairs. However, Rich suddenly spoke up. Hang on a minute, by the time you're back into boy mode, it'll be too dark, and I won't be able to teach you anything. Let's just head out now. What? Are joking, Rich? I stopped and span around, wondering what new madness had gotten a hold of him now. Or worse, what harebrained scheme he was cooking to prank me again today. I can't go out like this. What if someone sees me? I exclaimed. Relax, Dad installed tinted windows this summer, no one's gonna spot you. And if they somehow did, all they'll see is a young woman behind wheel, probably scared shitless, driving about 5 miles per hour. Believe me. Rich put a hand above his heart, making for the least convincing Boy Scout ever. However, he did have a point. I didn't really need to leave the car first time, and it should take longer than 30 minutes for a first lesson. Although the idea of anyone else seeing me was sending my heart into palpitations. Okay, but what about my permit? What if a cop stops us over and asks to look at it, expected to see F and finding a M? I tried desperately to appeal to Rich's reason. But it seems like his over-eager risk-taking streak had won over. The cops won't bother us if we stay in that abandoned plaza near the hockey rink. Out of the way and the perfect place to practice some parallel parking. Time's a wasting, grab a cute coat and that permit and let's fulfill that deal. Rich's hazel eyes gleamed, as if knowing he had won the argument. Cute? Rich, you're taking this bet way too far, it's seriously messing with you, I said, inadvertently conceding to Rich's dumb plan. I started to head upstairs again, but now with a different goal in mind. "You own me big time for time this, jackass." Rich was grinning from ear to ear as I climbed up. "Forget I said cute, okay?" "Oh, and yeah, I'll make it up you two, just you wait." Ugh, this day was getting weirder and weirder by the minute, I thought to myself as I mused over whether Carla had a matching coat in her wardrobe. A sharp and chilly autumn wind breezed through the secluded parking lot, reverberating off the side of the large Gateway Ice Center and leaving echoes in its wake. The sunset was hidden below the tall pines on the west side of the lot, scattering amber rays light across the cracked asphalt. A few weathered light poles dotted the area, with faded-out white paint marking out about 50 parking spots or so. Coming off the main freeway, the place was largely quiet, with the only sounds being from the occasional whistling of speeding sedans in the distance. And of course, the sputtering motor of Mr. Cartwright's rust bucket this evening. Rich sat in the passenger seat, trying his best to act calm as took the rein of his father's prized possession. However, it certainly didn't feel like one to me, as I slumped into the stained fabric interior. A worry flashed across my mind of possibly spoiling the peach-colored button coat I was borrowing, but then I figured that any lingering residue would probably be clinging to Rich's hoodie instead. I scanned over the dingy-looking dashboard and well-worn steering wheel, prepping myself for my first road test. I wasn't sure why Rich's dad seemed so obsessive over this truck. It didn't appear to be well maintained like a well-loved machine might have been. Or the perhaps contrary, maybe he had to keep up constant maintenance just to keep this jalopy running. Either way, I guess he didn't want to entrust his son with it only too often. Rich previously told me about his plans to take dates out in the truck, saying that women dig a guy with some freedom. Back then I didn't hesitate to shut that notion down, saying that if he ever hoodwinked a girl into it, she'd puke on sight of the floor rugs. But here we were, me standing in the girl-in case, and about to be lectured in car handling by a dude who barely started practicing 2 months ago. "All right, let's get this party started," exclaimed Rich. I could tell if he was excited about demonstrating his prowess, or nervous about me potentially damaging the truck even further. Likely both. I, on the other hand, was anxious about being outside looking like Penelope Pitstop, despite the clear lack of observers nearby. "Are you sure this is a good idea, Richie?" The girly voice had tumbled out of me naturally, perhaps as a self-defense mechanism to avoid detection. Rich had said anything about it yet, so either hadn't noticed, or didn't see a problem with it. What if an employee steps out of ice rink and finds us? "Isn't this trespassing?" I added. Dad and I had no issues with it last time. "Don't get squeamish on me now, Benji. You asked for this in the bet, remember?" "Yeah, but I didn't ask to do it in high heels. They better not instill in me any bad habits." "Relax, and scoot your setup a bit, you're shorter than I am." "Good, right there so you can reach the pedals." "Okay, next check Yeah, next the mirrors." Rich and I went over the basics of reversing, parking, shifting gears, and wheel-handing for about an hour. Thankfully, I am a quick learner, and the small challenges of remembering to flash my indicator or aligning my tires properly helped clear my head and calm me down. Rich wasn't that bad of an instructor either, although he did take his eyes off the road a few too many times, claiming he was inspecting my technique for errors. I was fine with that, honestly. If Rich wanted to ogle a dude in girls' clothing, that was his prerogative. I was just happy that I seemed to be picking it up well. "See, what did tell ya? You're a natural, Benji. A few more runs and you be ready for the highways in no time." "You think so?" I'm still not too sure about which direction I'm turning when reversing, and we've only been going at like 7 miles per hour here. We'll iron out those details later. For now, let's call it a successful day and swap back. I managed to park into one of the hundreds of open spots available. We stepped out of the car, and after inspecting how well I'd stayed between the guidelines, 2 thumbs up from Rich, changed seats. The passenger seat was a firmer perhaps from lack of use, although stained with even more years-old grease. Rich chuckled as I swatted away more dirt. You were just in that seat an hour ago, relax. I swear you're acting just like my mom. Knock it off. I just don't want to have to explain why my sister's favorite coat has mustard stains on its rump tomorrow, okay? Okay, princess. That remark incited a glare from me, making Rick shut his trap for once. Soon we were on our way to my place. Except, instead of turning right at the intersection, Rich barreled straight ahead into town. Richie, did you miss the turn there? That was Paloma Avenue right there. I turned to face him, noting that even seated he was still a good 3 inches taller than me. I want to show you something first, it won't take too long, my parents aren't expecting home until later anyways, said Rich in a low tone. Oh no, more trouble. In town? Can't it wait until tomorrow? I can't go into town. My anxiety that had almost nearly drifted away had suddenly spiked again. There was no way to avoid being seen in public. I wasn't particularly religious, but I prayed that whatever dumb idea he had, I could still stay inside the truck for. Rich keep his eyes on the road, which I figured was more to avoid my piercing gaze than to set a good example. You said your family might be back tomorrow, so we might not get the chance. The fair's gonna pack up next week. I shrieked, the fair? No way, are you trying to kill me? Turn around this instant. I made a hasty grab for the wheel, but Rich swiftly blocked it. Probably for the best, as we had almost swerved into oncoming traffic. This is why you made that stupid bet, isn't it? To embarrass me in front of the entire city. I hate you. Watch it, Benji. That was a close one, gasped Rich. Slowing his pace, he attempted to calm down a bit before giving his explanation. No, this had nothing to do with the bet, at least at first. I had plans to spring this on you anyways, you've been dying all month to go, but now. Rich debating whether to say what was on his mind or not. He decided to continue, but now, I kinda wanna prove something to you. Prove what? That you're a terrible friend? That I'm more of a wimp than everyone already thought? That you're beautiful, counted Rich, with a small damn it, muttered under his breath as he realized what he just let slip. However, it seemed to have worked, as I quickly left speechless. Beautiful? Me? Rich continued, not taking back his comment. Look, Benji, all day you've been dragging yourself down and dissing yourself, deciding that you're a fool or something, and that's just not true. You look stunning, and I can tell you put a lot of thought into this for whatever reason. You're proud of yourself on some level, but you're too deep in self-loathing to see it. I've been trying to tell you, but you either just shut me down or treat it like a joke. Rich paused a bit as we came near the fairgrounds. I could see its tall vinyl fence, with a line of eager and restless patrons stretched alongside it. The fair's bright lights and mirthful sounds passed through the fence, and above it I could see the towering crest of the Ferris wheel, gently rocking its passengers to and fro as it spun. I declined to speak as Rich was looking for a parking spot, as his comments were rocking back and forth in my head. And he wasn't done yet. So, I figured my word wasn't good enough for you, then how about the world's? Because, for as long as I've known you, Benji, and sorry if this sounds rude, but you've been treating yourself like an outcast from society. And that's not health. You need to get out more, get out of that shell and live a little. And this is the perfect opportunity. It's like a disguise, you get to hang out and let loose, and if anyone we recognize ends up seeing us, they won't know it you. Sounds good, right, Benji? Benji? Rich must have been worried that I'd been shutting him out during his rant. True, I have been bugging you about the fair. And true, I could get out more, but this is insane, Richie. Even if someone won't recognize me, what about you? People will ask questions? So what? I'll just tell them I'm with a friend or something? Cousin from out of town. Cousin from out of town? I see your game, mister. You're trying to pass me off as your girlfriend or something. This is so like you. Mr. Showboat, even at his friend's expense. Hey, this isn't like that. Pinkies crossed. I'm just doing this to help you, man. But, maybe the girlfriend excuse would work too, said Rich sheepishly, his ulterior motives on full display. Ugh, this is weird as hell, right? Fine, I'll go with you, but only because I'm starving right now and could really go for a corn dog. Also, this truck stinks like heck. That wasn't completely true. A part of me was moved by Rich's speech. I was actually kind of interested in seeing how far my disguise could, if I could deceive enough people into thinking I was someone I wasn't. And we still had plenty of hours before bedtime where I'd have to step out this outfit once and for all. Might make the best of it, even if it could end in total disaster. Really? Awesome. Thank you so much, Benji. You won't regret it, promise. And that's another thing, I held up one dazzling red-tipped finger, briefly stunning myself before I remembered and continued. You can't call me Benji or Ben while we're there, lest someone catches on. Oh. All right then, what should I call you instead, dude? Chelsea, Amanda? Give me a second. Also, no dude. I reached behind me to the back seat, where I had left the small red handbag I'd picked from Carla's room. When I had went to grab my coat, I had noticed that unfortunately the best matching one was lined with fake pockets, leaving me without space for my wallet and permit. The purse was a necessity then, as I opened it up to double-check its contents. Carla had left some perfume in it as well, one facet of my disguise that had went neglected. It was something jasmine or rose scented according to the label, so I spritzed it on. In addition, I had tossed in some extra makeup just in case a catastrophe like this would occur. I swung down the truck's passenger mirror and redid some of my messy eyeshadow as Rich stared at me in amazement. Looks like you came prepared, nervously jested Rich as I applied another coat of lip gloss. Had to be, somehow I knew I couldn't trust you not to do something like this, especially when you asked about bringing the extra cash Mom left. Shit, am I really that transparent? Yes, and also call me Bella? Bella? Why, that starts with a B, so you'll remember it better, Richie. Rich puffed at that, but he also seemed elated that his wild scheme was coming to fruition. Bella, sure, I can remember that. Pretty name too. Can it with the compliments, Richie. I know you mean well, but this isn't date, and I'm not a chick. I chided, but a bit of smile formed at the tips of my ruby lips. Does my face look okay? Geez, first you say no compliments, then you ask me that bomb of a question. Bella, you play fair at all. Just a little payback, expect that and more throughout the night. But yeah, I'll take that as a yes. Let's go ruin my life then, shall we? The fairgrounds were bustling with chaotic energy that evening. At its heart, the annual town fair was held to celebrate a grand harvest season and reward the for their work, as was the tradition for over a century now. But over time, as the town's prosperity and population grew, so did the fair. Pumpkin patches and petting zoos were overshadowed by a dazzling array of carousels, concert halls, food stands, prize booths, stage shows and carnival rides as far as the eye can see. Exuberant displays of colors abound, as countless people of sizes and shape dashed about, trying to get their fill of joy and adrenaline before the night's end. I loved attending the fair as a kid. My parents would say those were some of my happiest moments, whether it dunking for apples to win a teddy bear, stuffing myself full of cotton candy, or almost passing out from riding the scrambler. I always had a smile on my face. Not today though. Instead, my hands were balled up in white-knuckle fear as Rich and I approached the ticket stand. Expected to be ousted as a freak, I keep my eyes to the ground and follow Rich as he guided us through the crowd, whom I was sure their piercing would decree me for a fraud the second I gave them a chance to. Rich must have noticed my reluctance to go forward, but he pressed on anyways. 2 tickets and 2 ultimate ride passes, please, he said once we made our harrowing way to the front. Unlimited rides? Was Rich expecting this night to last longer than 10 minutes, unlike me how was planning to book it after the first snow cone? The man behind the booth looked to be in his 50s, probably an event runner himself. Sure, that'll be $50, he said, naming the price off the top of his head. Rich nodded, then turned expectantly towards me. I hadn't moved my head up once, so I didn't notice. Wasn't until Rich leaned in that I figured out what the holdup was. Hand him the cash, whispered Rich, hoping it was out of earshot, although the exchange was clearly obvious to the cashier. Shit, that's why Rich sprang for the expensive stuff. He wasn't paying for it. That asshole. Petrified that I'd have to show myself to another human this early, I quickly zipped open my purse, scrounging for the bills I had tossed inside earlier. Finally grasping them, I took a deep breath and held out my pretty little hand to the cashier. Thank you, sweetheart. Have fun tonight, you too, but not too much fun. He winked at us, leaving a revolting feeling in my gut at the implication. I blushed and answered back quick thank you, still thankful my feminine tenor hadn't disappeared in fear. Rich tapped my shoulder and whisked me away to the gate. Grinning as he spoke, Rich said, "See, that wasn't so bad, now was it, Bella? No one's clocked you for anything suspicious yet." He doesn't count, that old man has probably got cataracts, or he's seen it all before. That's not very nice, sweetheart, Rich teased. I prodded him in the side for that one, and he yelped a bit, which helped lighten my mood somewhat. Don't you start too, you numbskull. What was the big deal about get those unlimited passes anyways? I'm only left with $10 now. Well, it looked like you needed all the fun you can get tonight, considered how gloomy you were in line. Don't worry about cash, from here on out it's on my tab. Well, okay, but don't expect much tonight. I'm still scared stiff over here. Live a little, will ya, Bella? You love the fair. How about this, you get first choice of which ride we go on, 'kay? Fine, fine. Let's get this over with, and headed off in the fair, with a smile threatening to spread across my face. Our first stop was at the haunted house, a well-loved stable operated by a local college frat house. Rich is a world-renowned scaredy cat who would leap away from his own shadow if he caught it at an odd angle, which made this attraction the perfect choice. Also, I hoped that the dark mood lighting would make it harder for passers-by to out me. Rich clung to me side the entire time, cowering from strung-up papier-mâché organs and screaming plastic skeletons. Rich decided to turn it around against me with his choice of the tilt-a-whirl, playing against my weak stomach. Soon we were both giggling like children as our car whipped around and around at high speed. I'd barely had anything in my tummy at the time, so luckily, I didn't hurl, but I did feel concerningly queasy and I excused myself to find the restroom. In my rush, I didn't have time fully contemplate the ramifications of entering the girls' restroom. I guess my upset stomach had managed to knock out all the butterflies hovering about in it earlier. All I knew was that I had to keep up appearances and hope that a stall was empty. Thankfully, there was no line, and as I ran to the nearest stall, all I spotted were two girls at the counters washing their hands. Locking the door behind me, I crouched down and prepared to vomit, aiming for the bowl to soil my clothes. But after 15 seconds or so I felt my urge to purge pass and whispered a silent prayer. However, a new fear nestled with my gut as I began to take note of my surroundings. I am in the girls' restroom. Sacred ground that no man, save the custodian, dared to enter. And outside the safety of my plastic prism were two genuine girls who were bound to spot a phony in their midst. I weighed options to distract my panic from overwhelming me. I could bolt it towards the exit, but the social faux pas of not washing my hands would surely get their attention, if not the sprint itself. I could stay in the stall and wait for them to leave, but who knew how long that would take. My ears were picking up the two of them starting a conversation, with the faucets not running. Shit. Guess my best bet would be to act normal and pretend not to be a trespasser, although I doubted I could pull it off. But Rich was waiting for me, so I steeled up whatever courage I had left and opened the stall door. Making my way to the mirror, I avoided looking at the two girls and drawing their attention. I turned on the sink and carefully washed my hands until Frida hold on. Hey, you there? You okay? You sounded a bit shook up in there? Oh God, they were talking to me. Trying my best not to sound as terrified as I felt to avoid further questioning, I turned my head slightly, faked a smile, and said, "Oh no, I'm fine for now. Thanks for asking though." The other girl, a brunette by the name of Frida apparently, jumped in to add, "Cute outfit by the way, love the belt. Where did you get it?" Huh, a compliment? I wasn't expecting that, nor I did have an answer to her question. I thought back to some of the shops Carla dragged me to during our runs to the mall years ago, before it became uncool to hang out with your little brother in public. I got it at Forever 21, wasn't too expensive either. Both girls were surprisingly nice to me, so I figured it was best to toss compliment their way myself. Both of your boots are fantastic by the way, they help flaunt off your legs so well. I hoped that I'd worded it to sound feminine and supportive enough, and not leering like a horn dog guy would. You think? I told you these boots were worth it, Frida. Appreciate it, sis, and take care, said the blonde one, who finished packing up her makeup in her purse and began walking out with her compatriot. Finally, I was free, unscathed, and alone to my thoughts. I guess my self-inflicted makeover was more impressive than I gave it credit for. Perhaps Rich had a point, maybe I was making too big of a deal of it. If those two fashionistas couldn't tell me for the boy I was, then maybe I wasn't a boy tonight. While I had the time, I studied my reflection in the mirror a bit, then brought out a brush to untangle the whirls in my hair still left over from the ride. Straightened my headband, I nodded at my reflection, at Bella, and head out to find Rich. Turns out he had gone ahead and ordered the corns dog I had requested before, along with some sodas and other fair snacks for an impromptu junk food dinner. As we at the concert hall, I told him all about my encounter in the restroom and how I actually got complimented instead of embarrassed to death. He tossed out a few apologies for choosing the tilt-whirl, but I could tell he was happy everything worked out the way it did, and that I was acclimating better to my situation. We took on the rest of the fair together. Strolling down the lane, listening to the garage bands play, riding fan favorite like the Graviton or the mini coaster, it was a blast. Especially now that I was letting loose of some of my inhibitions. I loved the carnival. I wasn't going to let any dumb bet get in the way of that love any further. I was still playing the role of a girl, but I found myself laughing out loud and making light conservation with others line. I even got hit on by a few college students before Rich intervened and saved me from more awkward pickup lines. I laughed about it later, but Rich seems a bit more concerned about it than expected. That was the other thing. Normally I had always attended the fair with my family, which was why this year I had been so worried about attending. Carla's college tour had taken priority this year, and the main of the reason why I had declined to join them and stay home was because of the fair. I tried getting Rich to tag along with me, but had always hesitated about confirming a date. Although he was my best friend in the whole world, that friendship hinged on a strong undercurrent of competition and one UPS manship, and I was afraid it would ruin the experience if I had to constantly be making bets with him the whole night. However, Rich and I weren't making any bets tonight. In fact, most of the time we're cooperative on the fair games, helping each other score big or cheering each other on. In fact, Rich won a prize plush giraffe and gave it to me. We'd never do that before. There was a weird new atmosphere between us, we both could tell, but I didn't mind it too much. When a cold wind swept through, we hurtled up close to keep warm. We strolled through the Agriculture Museum together for a reprieve from the town, and just talked. Commenting on the little factoids we read, joking about the giant squash contest that was being held, waxing about in life in general. We even took photos together, stuffed animal in hand, although I made him swear to me that he'd show them to any ever. Perhaps Rich was gun-shy of gambling on anything due to the big bet we made this afternoon that led to all this, but I had another theory in mind. The way he has treated me, I figured he was testing out some of his tricks to impress a potential girlfriend. Don't get me wrong, Rich never made any attempt on me, he made sure to stay in his lane as a true friend. But I don't know, he just seemed extra chivalrous at the moment. And I didn't mind the extra attention, it was kind of a nice change of pace from the constant ribbing we were known for. And in this light, Rich felt like truly decent guy to have around. You know, not that I was thinking about him like that. Just an observation. The sun had long since set, and the air was getting too frigid for me, so we both planned to make our next ride the last of the evening. The Silver Spoke Ferris wheel, Cedro County's pride joy, was a statewide icon, often depicted as the can't-miss attraction on all the advertising. My family always made it a point to ride it when we went, so it was fitting that trip on the wheel would the end to a so far fantastic day. However, Rich and I almost turned around once we saw a signboard out front that read Couples Night Pairings Only. It took the attendee spotting and ushering us to the line for me to realize what my facade must have made Rich and I look like. Guess there are benefits to being a girl after all, I thought to myself as Rich and I entered a blue, silver-trimmed cabin labeled with the number 12 on the door. To keep up appearances, I sat next Rich on the same bench, with my stuffed giraffe Wallace, don't judge, on the other. If Rich was bashful or concerned about our closeness, he didn't show it. Instead, he draped his arms over the backrest and let out an exhausted phew. He tilted his head toward me and spoke in a low tone of voice. Couples hour, he started with a small smile, probably means they about to close up shop for the night, right? We slipped in just in the nick of time then. Yeah, I nodded, wouldn't want to miss this. That's like going to Paris without climbing the Eiffel Tower. But still, are you okay with this? That lady at the booth thought we were dating or something. Come to think of it, so did the cashier at the gate earlier. Have we been giving off that impression of the whole time? Rich shrugged. Nothing we can do about that. Who cares what other people think, as long as we're having fun? More importantly, Rich added, leaning in some more. How are you holding up, Bella? It's been a long day. You must be tired as all hell. Yet you seem a lot more comfortable now? Rich still stuck to my fake name despite nobody being near enough to eavesdrop on us, but I was so used to it by then that calling me anything else would have thrown me off. To my periphery, I could see that we were about halfway up the wheel now, resting above the wide array of patchwork tents and merry crowds. Tired? Absolutely. My first and last time in heels. I was expecting to wear them for at most 30 minutes. Not, 7 hours at this point? Mind if I take them off for a bit? For a second, Rich seemed unsure, but being the gentleman that he was, he then said, Sure, go ahead, the cool air might help soothe those little piggies. Ignoring the dumb analogy, I carefully unbuckled the pink sandals, letting my toes breathe for the first time this evening. Rich spotted my ruby red nail polish, his eyes going wide before quickly darting back to the skyline. I giggled a little at his uneasiness. Just in case the lengths I had gone for this bet had been unclear to him until point, Rich now knew full well just how far I could push things. Or at least, as far as I'd let him, undergarments were off limits. Much better. But to answer your second question, yeah, I am feeling quite comfortable right now. Don't get me wrong, my nerves were shot when we first entered, and 9 out 10 times I would definitely choose to be in shorts than a skirt, but I resisted. Was this too personal to reveal right now? Would Rich hang this over my head if I let him know how I felt right now? But I decided to place my trust in him again tonight. After a while, when I noticed no one was pointing at me, or accusing me being a phony, I found myself having a lot of fun tonight, especially with you around, Richie. The makeup, the hair and all, I could just forget that and goof off with my friend C, just like I told you. You're a natural. All everyone sees is just a young woman having the time of her life. And about that, this must be the most animated I've ever seen you been, Bella. Those moves out there at the hall. I had no clue you could dance. I'd barely call that dancing, more like struggling to stand as legs caved under me. I giggled. I have no clue how other girls do it. I just wanted to try, as a once-in-a-lifetime thing. The wind was in effect as cabin soared ever so steady upward. The breeze flitted through Rich's mop of curly golden locks and threatened to mess up my bangs as well. I swept a hand through my hair and pulled it back, brushing against my earrings sparkling in the evening light. At this distance I could see their red glint bounce off Rich's hazel eyes. Still, I've never seen you so lively before. Maybe you should consider doing this girl thing more often? Not in your lifetime, pal. Have you forgotten? You're the only reason why I'm in this dress in the first place. The second we're back home, I'm taking a long, hot bath to try to forget all this. Hey, all I'm saying was that I was nice to hang out with you tonight. I mean, we hang out all the time, but tonight was different, and you were a little bit different, I guess. Didn't mean to offend you or anything. None taken. That was forgetting bit was just a joke. If I'm being honest, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget this night. And that's not a bad thing. It's not? Then what is it? It's hard to explain. You said I was a bit different, and I feel that too. It not just the way my skirt, purse, heels, and voice forced me to adopt some girly mannerisms. It's the fact that everyone saw me making a fool of myself, and yet no one cared. Like, I didn't have to be myself anymore, I was Bella. But I'm still me, you know? Sorry if I'm rambling too much. Putting a hand to his chin, Rich said no, I think I get it. It's sort of like when I act in one of my stage plays, I get to express some of my weirdness without worrying about the consequences. Yeah, something like that. However, I can't say I'm all that thrilled you still have those photos of me on your phone. If those leak out, I'm having your head, or worse, you'll be in the dress next time. I scolded. Now wouldn't that be a sight, I thought. The mental image of Rich stuffing his wide frame into a ball gown was hilarious. His athletic physique would shred any of Carla's dresses. Unlike mine, I guess, which fit girl clothes perfectly. That was an unnerving thought. Rich's reaction snapped me back into the conversation. I got you the first time, miss. No uploading or sharing, I swear. This will be yours and my little secret. Although, the guys in the drama club would be mad jealous if they saw the cutie I was hanging out with tonight. Shut up. I chided and tapped him a soft thud on the elbow. We both laughed, then fell into silence as the memories of the night washed over us. Yeah, despite my grievances beforehand, I was glad everything worked as it did. As I thought over what tomorrow would bring and how I was going to wash this outfit before Carla came home, I noticed that we had reached the top of the Ferris wheel. Hey Richie, look, we can see the whole of downtown from here. I exclaimed, pointing down below to the parking lot, then across to the rustic buildings and century-old towers that dot the skyline. The fair still shined brilliantly, its multicolored lights illuminating us from below. Rich, instead of turning over to his side, he leaned further in against me to see what I was pointing at. I could feel his steady chest on my back, the vibration of his heartbeat mingling with my own. Goosebumps shot up across my neck as his hot breath blew against my skin. I could smell faint hints of shampoo wafting from his hair. Was that cedar and mint? I tried not to panic at the all-consuming presence of Rich beside me, hoping he moved soon and not notice me freaking out. Yeah, it's beautiful. Rich whispered, his voice so close it reverberated down my spine. This was too much, way too much. Guys shouldn't be this close together. Trying to lighten the mood and get him literally off my back, I turned around to face him again, to talk. Wrong move. Now not only were we way too close, but we were also chest to chest. My sweater and amply padded bra rested on him firmly, and his face was only inches away from mine. Rich looked down a questioning look in his eyes whilst my brain desperately raced for a way back to normalcy. I tried to think of a joke. Maybe witty retort off his last comment, like I always did? Just something to shake him off me. Yet I was drawing a blank, frazzled by how strong Rich's arm felt wrapped around me, or rosy his cheeks were, or how adorable his face was when he looked bewildered. Adorable? I had to think fast. My mind leapt back to the last time Rich was said beautiful, back in the truck. Back when he was convincing me to come along to the fair with him. Back when he was describing me. A fuzzy feeling started buzzing around in my chest, and before I could rethink, I blurted it out. Beautiful like me? The question hung there for a second. In fact, I almost thought Rich hadn't heard the absolutely vain, insane thing I just said. Before I could retract my statement though, Rich's eyelids closed slightly, his face getting closer. At first though he was getting sleepy, but then the unexpected happened. Rich pulled me in, his lips fell upon mine, and the warmth radiating off them was unimaginable. Rich kissed me. I was paralyzed instantly, not just from the act, but from how I felt: calm, safe, cherished. Confused, shocked, ashamed. However, those sensations only lasted a few seconds, as Rich's head suddenly snapped straight back, his face stricken in horror as if he just realized what he'd done. He shuffled back to the end of the cabin, the mood swiftly replaced with one of panic and disbelief. Rich was spewing out rapid-fire apologizes, saying how he lost control, been confused all day, didn't mean anything by it, won't make this mistake again, begging to still be friends, etc., etc. I couldn't make out a word he said. I was numb, completely taken aback, his heat still lingering on my glossed lips. In the middle of his pleads, I finally said the one thing that cut him off completely. I want to go home now. The rest of our time on the Ferris wheel passed in silence, as did the walk to the car and the drive home. My home was only 20 minutes away, but those minutes felt stretched into an eternity. Between us there was no eye contact, no touching, and certainly no more words exchanged whole way through. Wallace laid flat on his side in the backseat of the truck, with Rich and I unsure whether or not to dump this souvenir of tonight's indiscretion or not. Richie kept his eyes ever forward, clenching and unclenching his grip on the steering wheel, the anxious tension in his fingers all too apparent. I laid my head against the passenger side window, eyes turned toward the fleeting dark surrounding us, my mind swimming through a mess of emotions. Why did Richie kiss me? Rich wasn't gay or anything, was he? No, he wouldn't be sifting through the school nurse's medical records for girls' phone numbers if he was. We talked girls all the time, and Rich has never once mentioned find any dude attractive before, least of all me. Until today, that is. Damn it all, I knew this dumbass bet was a terrible idea. What did I even prove by wearing a dress, huh? That I was man enough to tackle any stupid gamble head first, brain second? Big whoop. All I've done today was confuse poor Rich. It not his fault he saw me as a chick, from the voices, the feminine walk, the fact that I unironically started calling him Richie all day, I don't blame him. God, even that last line, beautiful as me, I was practically asking to be we-kissed. Why didn't I assert my maleness more? Why didn't I put a stop to this sooner before stuff went awry? Because I was afraid or being caught? Or maybe, I liked being a girl for a change. Well, I can't deny that I was have a splendid time up before the Ferris wheel, but was that due to being Bella, or due enjoying the fair in general? Oh God, what a mess! The more I overanalyzed my feelings, the more distressed I felt, and wondered if Rich was feeling the same way right now. No doubt he was just as confused as I was. I took a furtive glance over my shoulder at him, hoping he wouldn't notice. I wasn't ready to confront him about the kiss right then, for whatever reason. Richie was still trying to ignore me, doing his best to focus on keep us safe despite everything. Even inexperienced, he was a pretty good driver. I stared at him some more, at his still nervous hands, his arms, the pensive look on his face, hazel eyes deep in thought, his lips. I sharply swivel my head away in shame. Damn it! Images of the kiss replayed in the mind over and over again. Damn it! Was I attracted to Rich? I couldn't possibly be, right? I'm a normal guy. I never had any feelings for Rich in the 2 years since I've known him, but now I was get flustered at the mere sight of him. Stupid clothes. I would burn them immediately if weren't borrowed. So, is this it? I couldn't let Rich know how screwed up I was, so should we stop being friends anymore? Rich was a likable enough guy. He could make friends with anyone he wants. He doesn't need to hang out with a freakazoid like me anymore. Then again, he was my only friend. Without him, I would back to sulking in the shadows, lurking around unnoticed and unwanted. I thought back to the fair, and how joyful and outgoing I was when I was with Rich, and how Rich practiced with driving me, and kind he was to not laugh in my face as I first stepped down those fateful steps. No, our friendship means the whole world to me. Will not let one little slip up get between us. Rich was already beating himself up for it, no need to worry him over losing a friend on top of that. It was just one kiss, wasn't that long. Didn't feeling that bad either, kind of tingly, almost like hot cocoa in early morning, or... Before I lost myself in more reverie, I felt the truck make a hard right up an incline, and in the beams of the headlights made out the telltale brickwork of my home's driveway. The truck came to a rest, and Rich shifted it into park. Welp, time to get this over with, I thought. I had made up mind. I get tell Rich I had a fun time and friends, and the kiss wasn't a big deal after all. Just make up with, then get this off make off me. I opened the car door and hopped off, clutching my purse with me. No, not my purse, Clara. None of this girly crap was mine, and I had to reinforce that notion in my head to keep it straight. I grabbed Wallace out of the back as well, figuring that I could at least give it away as a gift if I didn't want to keep it. It would be too rude to toss away Rich's present like that in front of him. His plush softness helped ease the vice of doubt around my heart a little. I hadn't expected to be gone so long, so I hadn't bothered to turn the light on in the house. Thankfully, as I approached the unwelcoming dark patio outside the front door, our automatic security light flashed on. I burrowed through the purse until I found my key and unlocking the door. I turned towards Rich to apologize for the wait. It only was then that I noticed I was alone outside my door. Shielding my eyes from the headlights' rays, I saw Rich still lingering in the truck, talking to himself a little. I wasn't sure if he was building up courage to step out and confront the issue between us, or simply planning to gun it and speed away like a madman. Suddenly worried that this might be the last time I ever saw my friend, I called out to him. Richie! Why was I still using the dreaded Bella voice? I covered my hands over my mouth in vain hope of muzzling myself, but it was already too late. At least my cry had its intended effect. The second Rich heard was as if I jammed a spur into his back. He shot up the dash to my doorstep, tongue already racing out what he had been bottling up during the car ride. I know I must have said it 1,000 times already, Benji, but I'm truly sorry about what happened back there, said Rich, as he stood a good 4 feet away. He seemed wary of approaching me, and his use of the real name didn't go unnoticed. It was totally uncalled for, and I'm ashamed of myself for breaking your trust. You're my best friend in the wide world, and I still want to be friends with you, so could you please forgive me, and let's put this mistake behind the both of us. This time I could hear his apology, and it was exactly what I wanted to hear. A clean slate between us, the night entirely forgotten. I should just accept it and move on. And yet, although Rich sounded genuine and sincere enough, there was something off about it. Something his word choice bothered me. Ashamed? Mistake? Why did you do it? I asked, my head not yet catching to what I was saying and why. Come on, do I really have I answer that? I said it was a mistake. Why did you kiss me back there, Richie? I walked up to him, closing the distance between. Now I understood what I was doing. I need to know Rich's intention with that kiss. Did he really mean nothing by it? This was suddenly everything to me now. Rich was looking down at me now, my proximity made the height gap all the more noticeable. Worry line creased his face as he struggled to find the right wording. I held on. If our closeness was making him uncomfortable, I welcomed it. I just need to know something. Damn it, because it just felt right then, okay. I know you hated it and I never should have pushed myself in the first place, but don't know. I've been feeling mixed about you ever since I saw you, and night on, I thought we connected or something. I shouldn't have assumed anything, and I'm a piece shit for doing so. So there, happy now. I'm sorry for being a dumbass. Rich then splayed his arms wide open as if awaiting heavenly judgment, drained from his answer, and admitting full blame for the crime. Welp, there it is, all laying bare. So, he liked me. If only for today, he thought he was into me. I could forgive that. In fact, what I should do right now is rip off this silly headband and shake his hand, mano y mano, a gentleman's arrangement. I should be extending my hand out to do just that, and let bygones be bygones. End the story on a happy, both of us walking away wiser for it. Instead, what I found myself doing reaching up to Rich's neck, balancing on my tippy toes. I closed my eyes as Rich opened his and planted a kiss straight on his lips. I held it there for 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds, no resistance or struggle felt. Then I let go. Rich stood there blinking his eyes, brain valiantly trying to process what's going on. That's when I knew. Immediately, I pivoted on the spot and ran back into the house, faster than Rich could keep up with. I bolted through the doorframe and slammed it shut behind me. I grabbed my keys and locked it, then ran up the stairs. Ignoring the sounds of knocking echoing behind me, I ripped off the shoes as I made my ascent. I tore off the coat, the headband and clip-on. I shimmered my skirt off and threw it aside, landing in a flurry of ruffles. The sweater followed it shortly. Peering through now watery eyes, I pried off the bra and panties as I ran into the bathroom. The shower was on full blast as I doused myself in its cold embrace. Lathering a coarse sponge, I went to work scrubbing away both the makeup and my running tears. The shower still ran as I curled myself into a ball in the cold acrylic tub, desperate to fend off the emotion I should not have been feeling. Struggling to cope with my shattering identity. Knowing full well that I will never be a normal ever again. Two shadows embraced in the dark. The air around them was warm and musky, and whatever pitch-black surface the shadows laid on was velvety soft. Too much so, almost inviting one to rest upon it, to envelope them in its comfort. The dark obscured the shadowed figure's features, though one seemed taller, more masculine. Whilst the other was tiny, frail, fair, and wrapped around its counterpart. Only intangible whispers could be heard, losing clarity as they echoed out into the unknown. What the shadows were doing, I could not say. Either seeking comfort in their closeness, allaying each other's woes, or perhaps expressing their affection for one another. In any case, I could sense they felt secluded, secure, and most importantly, safe together. Flash! A swarm of spotlights suddenly rained from above, blinding lights casting away the darkness in an instant. Sirens roared, their source unknown and their high-pitching ringing all surrounding. The array of beams scattered across the space in a hectic manner, yet then converges on the shadows in the center, bringing them into frightening illumination. Two men, cladded in uniform, faces obscured, came up behind the taller shadow and pried him off me. Wait, me! I looked down and realized I was there, lying on the floor, wearing nothing but black lace lingerie. Before I could even react, another masked man snuck up on me and forced my arms behind my back. I felt the icy grip of stainless steel wrap around my wrists as my assailant screamed into my ear, "You're under arrest. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." I was panicking now, and my head snapped to the side to see the other shadow, who I now recognized as a stark-naked Rich, straining against his own handcuffs as he is slowly dragged away from me. Then I jerk upward, and against the still blinking spotlights, and can make out faces staring down at me. Many faces, some of which look familiar. I can make out Dad, Mom, Carla, all aghast at the display before them. I see my classmates, my teachers, Mr. and Mrs. Cartwright, the president, Dave Grohl, all with either disgust or mockery in their cold stares at my almost nude body. They see the sliver nail polish on my toes, the lace brassiere hanging from my shoulders, the pigtails in my hair. They see the sensuous stockings tracing up my hairless legs, the garter straps tied together in neat bows. They see black thong barely hanging around my waist, with an obvious bulge underneath it threatening to be unveiled. I'm paralyzed. I can't stand, I can't think, I can't scream with fear closing off my throat, air unable to reach my aching lungs. Another masked man, a police officer, looms over me with a notepad in hand, shouting unintelligible orders to me. After what seems like an eternity of shame, I'm able to parse out one instruction. State your name and address. My name? The officer glares at me behind his glasses, impatient for an answer. My name? I should know that, shouldn't I? Why can't I think of it right now? I need to be quick, or else it's all over for me. My name! Oh God, what the hell is my name? I move my mouth to speak, but nothing comes out, only rasps. Tears start pouring from my eyes. The officer shakes his head, then pulls out a flashlight to beam in directly into my eyes. The world goes bright. I wake up screaming, drenched in sweat. I hyperventilate for 3 solid minutes as I pan around my room in the dark. I wipe my brow off with my pillow as I realize I'm at home, and I'm safe. I look down and see my naked body, wondering what I must have done to warrant such a vivid nightmare. I didn't sneak in any alcohol last night, did I? No, I just hung out with Rich and oh no. Sunday was a cold one. I had forgotten to shut windows when I went out, so a chill wind had permeated the house and seeped into my room. I was laying on top on my bed covers with only a bath towel wrapped around me, leaving me defenseless from the pervading cold. After another session of heavy breathing, I calmed down and mustered myself off the bed and onto a heap on the floor. My wall clock read 5 a.m., which wasn't the norm for me on Sundays. I didn't mind the early awakening though. I had plenty to do that morning before Mom, Dad, and Carla came back. And I didn't want to risk dreaming again. I stood up and glanced myself over. My baby-smooth skin partially explained why my sleep was so fitful last night. Coupled with the leftover flakes of nail polish on my toes and fingers, it was difficult to forget the other reason why, despite my efforts to. My bedroom door was ajar, with a wet trail leading from it to the bathroom. Sticking my head out the frame, I saw another trail blazed with discarded clothing along the stairs. Shaking my head, I set up prepping myself for the day ahead, praying for it to be a quiet one. Well, maybe not totally quiet. I couldn't find my phone at its usual resting spot upon my desk, so I booted on my laptop and opened Spotify. Browsing through my catalog, I quickly spotted one of my favorites, Alice in Chains' Facelift. Perfect. I was in dark mood, and I needed something heavy to distract me from my discordant thoughts. Screeching guitar riffs and scathing vocals accompanied me as I went about cleaning up the house. I dressed in only my thermals and a hoodie, hoping something from my closet would aid in making me feel normal again. Collecting the clothes off the steps and setting the house straight was short work. Tidying up Carla's room was not. I tried my best to organize and rehang all the clothes I borrowed, making sure I left them as the same positions I lifted them from. I took meticulous measures to ensure her makeup collection was arranged exactly as it was yesterday, even replacing her mascara with some of Mom's stockpile. I double-checked my reflection in the mirror to see if I looked suitably boyish enough, and aside for a bit of extra sheen to my hair, I seemed fine. I stuffed Wallace in a black trash bag labeled for donation and tossed it in my closet, fearing that just looking at it would bring up unwanted memories. And yet, those thoughts persisted. Not even a live performance from Lane and Jerry at my house themselves could have drowned out the thumping of my heart as the events of last night looped in my mind. As I scrubbed off the remaining glitter from my fingers in acetone, I drifted back to why I'd worn it in the first place. Rich. God damn it, Rich, why did you have to make that stupid dare? Why didn't you laugh me out of house of home, and instead encouraged my reckless behavior? Why did you have to be so irritatingly nice to me yesterday? Why did you have to be so damn close? It's all his fault that I'm compromised like this. That I made the same mistake as he did. Maybe one kiss we could have walked back from. Say that we got it out of our system, and we could laugh about it later as buddies. But 2 kisses? No, no one could let that slide. Something was severely wrong with between us now. I have never had romantic thoughts about boys before, and I had no intention of holding such in the future. No offense to the gay community, but I just wanted to be normal. Or better yet, I didn't any attention or hassle in my life. I wanted to go under the radar throughout high school and bide my time until I was confident enough to ask a girl out. I wasn't interested in getting a girlfriend right now as Rich was. It sounded like drama. At least, that's what I told myself. Yet, here I am, deep in the middle of Drama City and at risk of losing either my best friend, my grip on my own identity, or both. When I think back to the fair though, to that accidentally date night, it didn't even feel like it was me kissing Rich. It was Bella, the false girl that somehow did not have the same insecurities I had. She was lively, she was outgoing, strangers seemed to like interacting with her more. In some ways I admired that, but at the risk of falling for Rich? No way was I going to allow that to happen again. And it won't, right? If Rich sticks to his promise, no one will know about it her either. Can I trust him to do that? Ugh, I can't even trust that we'll remain friends after this. I groaned out loud to myself as I rinsed glitter and lacquer down the sink. My family arrived back at about 4 p.m. My thoughts were still jumbled up, but I did my best to hide that as I greeted Mom at the door. She asked how I had been, worried that I may have starved or burnt the house down or something. I gave her my prepared spiel about how I just hung out with Rich all day and went to the fair for an hour or two, nothing special. Then I spun it around and asked her about the trip. Dad was busy hauling a box full of university merch through the door frame as Carla scooted past him, tossed a perfunctory hi my way, and rushed upstairs. Mom went on and on about the campuses they visited, dorm pricing, meal plans, educational commitment, yada, yada. I couldn't care less but pretended to make the effort to avoid her asking me any more questions. If any of them noticed anything off or different about me, they didn't bring it up, so perhaps I was in the clear. Back in my room, I tried to get some homework done, with Alice in Chains still blast away in my headphones. However, I couldn't really bring myself to write about Galapagos Islands or the shape of finch beaks at the moment. Frustrated, I laid back on my bed and checked my phone, which I had found in the purse I had flung away in a flurry yesterday. Rich had called once that morning and texted me an hour later. I must have missed the ringing due to all the music blaring in the background and was grateful for that. "You okay? We need to talk," call me. I didn't feel like talking to him right then. I didn't feel like talking to him ever. I knew it was rude to kiss and run, and I'm sure Rich had plenty of valid questions to ask me, but I had zero answers to give him. Or perhaps, I was afraid of the answer I might give if I were to let my guard down too soon. I texted back. Need time. I'll see you at band tomorrow, hoping that would suffice, and knowing that it would not, I once again drifted into an uneasy sleep. Unfortunately, Monday also went off to a bad start as I shuffled through the halls to first period. I tried to go about my daily routine of skulking about and hiding in the back of class. Yet despite me doing so for most of my adolescence, I felt a pressing need to take extra precautions avoiding of my peers' notice. Perhaps it was just because I was dreading confronting Rich later, but today my social anxiety felt especially nerve-wracking. Maybe because I truly had something to hide about myself this time. As if anyone could tell I dressed as a girl during the weekend just from a wayward glance. No way, I had triple-checked myself in the mirror that morning to make sure. Nada, zip. I was just regular good old Benji, the ignorable. Though I did notice just how unmasculine my regular self was. No wonder. Thus, by the time the bell rang for fifth period, my nerves were shot and my mood sour. I walked into the auditorium with clarinet case in hand and made a beeline for my usual seat. Our group had a big performance lined up in less than 2 weeks, so everyone was worked up in a whirlwind of high-strung energy memorizing their sheet music, making it easy for me to go by unnoticed. Well, unnoticed by everyone except Rich, who was standing around my seat, tapping his foot and scanning the crowd until he spotted me. He almost ran up, but the rows of folding chairs blocked his path, so he just waved, the sacks around his neck swinging wildly alongside him. I sighed. Well, at least he didn't seem mad about me running off on him, yet Rich being almost giddy to see me didn't assuage my fears either. I scooted into my chair and bent down to unlock my instrument, avoiding eye contact. Hey Benji. You doing okay? Hope so. I hadn't heard much from you yesterday. Not that I was waiting for a response or anything, I'm fine. In fact, I'm feeling great. Really happy you're my friend and everything. But just checking on you since after the, well, we don't have to talk about that right now. But we're cool, right? Still buddies, buddy? Rich starts blabbering when he gets really excited about some new prospect or hot chance. Like the time he thought he could score Foo Fighters concert tickets for us for dirt cheap, somehow missing they a year past expired until after he bought them. Or when he was cast as understudy for a school play and overheard that the lead was going on a ski trip over the weekend. I rolled me eyes from where Rich couldn't see, and then straightened up to face him again. So what opportunity was he fantasizing about this time? Yeah, I'm okay, Rich, I replied. Did you practice the new sheet music, the Maria von Weber stuff? Looks pretty complex. Sure, but more importantly I know some weird stuff happened last time. I just want to let you know now I'm cool with whichever way you swing, man. It's fine, I was questioning myself too back there, but I made a Desi's dash. Rich, please, we went to the fair, played video games, normal stuff. Now hand me your sax. I think you inserted your reed backwards again. I tried to keep an aloof demeanor to bolster my claims, but Rich wasn't taking the hint and kept on pressing. Rich leaned in, whispering now. Dude, aren't you forgetting something? Class was finally coming to session at this point, risking our chances of being overheard. The instructor, Mr. Glasgow, stood at his well-worn podium, looking from frazzled after the weekend than usual. I know said I wouldn't bring up the kiss Saturday night, but I snapped at him. Nothing happened Saturday night, and if you want to stay friends, you better leave at that, okay? I didn't expect myself to get this testy with Rich this morning, but I felt my sanity was on the line, and I couldn't let Rich get the wrong impression of me. What, seriously? You can't just ignore that we both kissed each other back there. Watch me. Look, I know it was strange, all right. Completely unexpected, not what you asked for, I get that totally. Then why won't you drop it? Because I want to reassure you that if ever decide to, dress again, I wouldn't be against it. That's all. Oh God, this couldn't be happening right now. Is Rich trying to justify it? Was he that much of a horn dog to not see how completely depraved the act was? Why? Did he like it? I reached out for his sax again and yanked it down on hard, pulling him even closer. I did my best to ignore the cologne he was wearing, or how his hazel eyes lit up when startled by my brashness. My deliberately messy hair parted in the commotion, revealing the death stare I hoped to inflict on him. Don't get it twisted, I snarled. I'm not some fag or sissy, okay? That kiss was a mistake and nothing more. I'm trying to be nice here, but if you attempt any funny business, we're through. I don't swing any way. I'm normal, understand? Normal. Excuse me. Mr. Cartwright. Mr. Graziano. I hope I'm not interrupting, but I am trying to begin class over here. If you have something you find more important that you'll like to discuss, you can take to the principal office. Damn, I must have gotten too heated. Mr. Glasgow and the rest of class were now staring at us. I let go of Rich, and he promptly spoke up for the both of us as he adjusted his collar. No, sir. Benji was just helping me with my read here. We'll be quiet now. Glad to hear it, Mr. Cartwright, said Mr. Glasgow, his hand massaging his temple as if to address a migraine, hangover, or both. Now if we can begin, everyone please flip over to page 26, and we'll start from the top. Rich made small glance at me then sat back down, a clear grimace on his face. Breathing out a deep sigh of relief, I turned my attention back to my clarinet. The rest of class went smooth enough, despite the fact Rich and I didn't talk at all during it. Or perhaps because of that. Before we adjourned, Rich made a reach for me, but then shook his head and lowered his arm. Whatever was between wasn't resolved, that was clear. For the time being though, I guess we both made the choice to avoid each other until we were ready to talk about it. Fine by me, yet I was still annoyed that Rich wasn't as willing to let it go as I was. The rest of school was dull as usual, my mood at an all-time low. Normally I would hitch a ride with Rich, but obviously that wasn't the cards for today. Left with few other options, I waited in line behind the baseball field to take my chances with the afternoon bus. Surprisingly enough, I found Carla and her posse there, which is odd since they all usually went to a study session after school. Even more surprisingly, she seemed to be waiting for me. She spotted me in the crowd and sashayed up towards me, drawing more needless attention my way. Oh, hey little bro. So nice to see you, I don't often catch you riding the bus here. Did Starboy's car break down again? I hope not. Carla's cheerful demeanor sounded even more sickening sweet today, somehow. No, just felt like taking the bus. That's cool. The bus is a great opportunity to meet new friends and such, that's how me and Cassandra meet all the way back in 5th grade. Whatever, I muttered back, wishing this exchange would end soon. I wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Carla Graziano was a model straight-A student. Social butterfly, captain of the girls' soccer team, Red Cross volunteer, and a shoo-in for valedictorian according to her at the dinner table. When she wasn't getting on her teacher's good sides or winning awards, she was the center of every gathering, the apple of every boy's eye, and the envy of all her friends. I even caught Rich sneaking peeks at once and while when he would come over for band practice. No boyfriend, though, says that they'll only weigh down her ambitions, and Carla was one to aim for the top. Superstars like her aren't supposed to hang with draglings like me. The fact that she was even talking to me was putting her social standing at risk. So why? Do you need something? I'm kinda busy right now, I said, glancing back at the empty road, hoping the bus around the corner to save me from more hassle. She scanned me over, as if calculating whether or not me standing around in a line really counted as busy. She tilted her head and smiled again, making me shiver a bit. Not too busy for your big sister, I hope. Come on, I hardly see you around school. Let's ride the bus home together and catch up. Huh? Don't you have friends you should be with right now? A match to practice for? Cats to recuse out of trees? She laughed at that one, though it sounded to me more like a placatory laugh rather than because she found it funny. She turned over her shoulder and cupped her hands around her mouth to call out to her friends, who were idling about in the school parking lot. I catch you all later, I'm heading home with my brother, okay? She yelled out. I saw some waves and a few thumbs up in the distance, then all started packing into the nearest vehicle together. She whipped back to me. They're cool with it. I told them all the plan earlier anyways. Wait, what plan? What are you up to, sis? Oh, not much. Just a hunch I need to follow through on. Something about last Saturday. You might know about it. My heart rate quickened. Oh no, did she find out about me using her stuff? How? Did forget something? I washed all the clothes, hung them all up properly. I even buffed out and scratch marks on the shoes. There's no way unless Rich told her? He wouldn't screw me over like that, would he? Maybe she has the wrong idea, perhaps she found something else amiss. Either way, I need to make sure she zips her mouth shut, else I can never live this down. Wild theories and wilder emotions flooded my thoughts as the afternoon bus finally came to stop in front of us. A sly grin crept upon Carla's face as she waited patiently for my response. Okay, fine, you can come along, but for the love of God don't try to draw any attention. I whispered. I tried to add a hint of menace to my command, but it came out sounding more frightened instead. Carla complied and hopped right behind me as the line shuffled forward. After boarding, I made my way to the back, hoping to be out of earshot of anyone in case Carla let something slip. Carla stuck behind me, smiling the whole way through. The secret truth is that she can be quite vindictive when she knows her has the upper hand. Many years of sibling rivalry have drilled it into my head. Don't cross her path unless you have an ace up your sleeve or a parent to run to. Unfortunately, neither were at my side now. I sat down, unable to relax, and stared at my palms as if the answer to all my problems would materialize within them. Carla plopped down beside me and began speaking. So, care to tell me exactly what you were up to while I was away? Like I said to Mom, nothing much. We played video games like always, then we went to the fair. Sure, I can believe those parts, but that isn't the full story now, is it, Benji? I don't know what you're going on about. Look, if you don't have anything better to do, Carla, could you please at least leave me out of your games? She flipped one of her bangs back behind her ear, brushing off my comment. If you insist, but am I curious to know why you went into my room and fiddled with my belongings? Better play this cool. I wasn't sure what she found, but I can't let her think I was the cause. Huh? I have zero reason to mess with your junk? On the contrary, I have some pretty conclusive evidence that you did. Why though, I haven't quite figured out yet. I was hoping you'd explain. I'm not explaining shit until I see that evidence of yours. My anxiety was rising, and I hoped Carla couldn't see the sweat running down my forehead. Thank God for my mop top. Watch your temper, Benji. A pond's still surface hides its secrets better. After all, shouldn't I be the angry one here? Coming back after an exhausting trip to find my wardrobe in disarray, my neatly folded pants all bunched up and stuffed in a hurry. So, you're blaming me for your room being a mess? I thought you're supposed to be a grown-up now. Or are you saying I was rooting away for something in there? As if. You got nothing that interests me. Unless that something is nail polish remover? Apparently, half the contents of a freshly opened bottle I'd left had simply disappeared while I wasn't there. Damn, I silently swore to myself for my rookie mistakes, but at least this one I could explain away better. I bolstered up as much confidence as I could into my next answer. I don't know, it's acetone, right? That stuff evaporates if you leave it out too long. You said you opened it? Well, there's your answer. Carla shook her head slightly, still smug in her confidence. Maybe, but half a bottle's worth in 2 days? I'm not buying it. You don't have it, buy it, you just have to leave me alone. She's being too persistent, she must have something else under her sleeve. But what? Think, Benji, think. What else could you have forgotten to stow away? Not until we get to the bottom of this, little bro. Now, not only was my wardrobe a mess and my stuff tampered with, but someone had the nerve to impart grease stains all over my brand new pure white Guess coat. Serious ones too, all over the tushy region. Now, where could those come from, I wonder? The slimy seat of a good pal's busted clunker perhaps. No way, you're lying, I washed that thing twice over, I never saw. Carla's eyes shone brilliantly. She had been waiting for this moment, and I fell for her bait hook, line, and sinker. Shit. Carla sat back and basked in her triumph, crossing her legs, which was a feat in and of itself considering the lack of leg room available. You're right, there were no grease stains, no stains at all really. But your mention of washing my coat gives context to my first clue. You see, being brand new, I hadn't worn it before. I had no intention of wearing, in fact, I had planned to return the coat after coming back. Just didn't fit my style is all. However, when I went to check on it, I'd found that the price tag was missing, either yanked off by some mischievous ne'er-do-well or lost the wash. Carla, I had noth dash she cut me off. Next were the 2 Cedro County Fair ticket stubs I found in my purse. Her hand flew up and flung in my face the tickets. The smoking guns themselves, armed to shoot another round in the beaten corpse that was my remaining dignity. I hung my head, defeated, as Carla's eyes sparkled in victory. The gloating tone in her voice was unmistakable, unescapable. So Benji, what did you do last weekend? Please, it really isn't any of your business to dash, it's my stuff, my room. Or course it's my business. Spit it out, little bro, else I'll tell mom and dad my theory of the events, and you wouldn't want. I debated a bit in my head if Carla's guess at what had happened would be better or worse than actuality, but eventually I caved in. Better to die on your sword, I guess. Okay, I tell you. I peeked over the bus seats to see if anyone had been eavesdropping on our arguments so far. Coast seemed clear, and I took in a long, deep breath, the rancid pit-drenched stank of the bus's upholstery being the least of my concerns now. Promise me you keep it between us, okay? Ooh, sounds scandalous. Did you bring a girl over or something? Promise me. And no, I didn't. Okay, I promise, Scout's honor. Now spill the beans. What, or who, were you trying to cover up for? Stalling for time, I checked outside the window. The winding narrow streets and the various hues of stucco of the neighboring houses told me that we were 5 minutes away from our stop. Not feeling entirely safe unveiling my secret to Carla while we're still in public, in case she got any bright ideas to humiliate me on the spot, I said I'll tell her once we got home. She was clearly irritated at how stubborn I was being, but she agreed. I imagined the suspense as to what heinous act her brother could have possibly done that needed this much discretion was gnawing at her. Seeing as she had already won, she was willing to pardon this act of cowardliness. The walk home was more of a brisk jog ending with both of us bursting through the door at the same time. Dad was home mulling about in the kitchen and saw us sprinting up the stairs 2 steps at a time. Hey, hardly see you two here so early, or together. How was school? Everything dandy? Just peachy, Daddy, gotta run by. Come on, Benji, said Carla as she span off the banister at the top of the stairs and slipped into her room. Dad raised an eyebrow at that, and then eyed me, still midway up. I hesitated, thinking Dad needed some sort of explanation. School was fine, Dad. Carla's helping me with a project right now, I'll tell you about it later. Alrighty then, call down if you need help. What class is it for? Being an accountant at one of the larger local firms, Dad figured himself as a know-it-all, and although he was a vital resource for math homework, he was often bumbling at anything else he took a crack at. Geez, why do parents insist on being helpful and stuff when you need them the least? History, Dad. It'll be okay, we'll be done shortly. Later. I turned the corner and locked Carla's door behind me. I took in another deep breath before spinning around and facing my sister. She was waiting, perched upon her, fingers drumming on her thighs, anxious as hell to finally get her reward. Tossing my backpack towards the door, I slumped into the chair near her vanity, the same one I had used last time to become Bella. So, out with it again, not so loud. I shifted in place a bit, unsure how to broach the topic, or how much I really should divulge. Okay, like I said, Rich came over on Saturday to play some video games together, that's all we really had planned for afternoon. It's just that you know how Rich gets all competitive and stuff, making stupid bets? How you both get. Starboy and you are always up to dumbest things. Don't think I forgot the time you two were caught dumpster diving behind the grocery store? I had to come bail you from the managers because you were too afraid to fess up to Mom? For the last time we weren't dumpster diving. We were shoot a video and whatever, that not the point. The point is, Rich and I made another dumb bet, with him having teach me how to drive in his dad's car dash and you? Guess there was no avoiding it now. I hung my head down in shame and grumbled out, and me having to dress up like a girl. For real? Seriously? You came into my room looking for an outfit to wear? Look, I'm sorry I broke your privacy and borrowed your stuff without permission. I swear I'll never do it again, so please don't tell Dash. Oh my God, what did you wear? Carla interrupted sharply. What? I mean, I know about the coat, but what else? Shoes? Jeans? Hair? Well, this wasn't how I expected things to go. Carla didn't seem mad by confession at. Instead, her eyes beaming with delight. However, that didn't mean I was in clear yet. No, far from it, judging by sibling intuition. Why do you want to know? They're all already clean if that's what you're wondering, I stammered out. Because this is totally priceless. Ridicule material like this only comes once in a lifetime. Carla began to laugh, hands holding at her sides as if they were splitting. Gosh, I bet you look like a hot mess in them too, judging from your drab fashion sense. She straightened up a bit, then clapped her hands authoritatively. I need details, stat, she commanded. Begrudgingly, I started pulling out the clothes I so painstakingly tried to hide away back out and onto the bed beside Carla. Having to explain my misdeed to her was hard enough, but having look at each frilly feminine article I had donned made me sick to my stomach. I was reliving a night I desperately wanted to forget, but now in front of an audience. However, Carla still had the upper hand on me. I wasn't all that confident she would keep her promise of confidentiality until she was satisfied with my answer yet. So, if flashing her some of her own panties was what it took to keep her quiet, then so be it. And, although I knew it shouldn't have had, her remark about me looking like a hot mess wounded my ego a bit. Thinking back, I thought my choice of outfit okay was for a first and last attempt. Better than okay, that was my entire issue right now. But perhaps the person who owned them would know better than me. As I pulled out each piece, the red sweater, the belt, the sandals, Carla's excitement heightened. She seemed to be saving comment until the whole ensemble was on display, but I could tell a million words a minute were flying through her head as I gently laid the white skirt down. Her eyes almost popped out of their sockets when the bra and yoga shorts came to join it, but she remained silent. Finally, I took out the hairband and stood there, hoping this was the end of it. Carla just stared the bed, as she entranced by the display. The silence was getting awkward, so I stared mumbling. So yeah, that's about it, aside from the makeup stuff. I just used the ones you left out last. An awful lot for a dare. Carla wasn't facing me as she spoke, eyes still gluing to the apparel. She seemed to be lost in thought, almost forgetting I was in the room with her. Probably imagining what I looked like in all of it. Maybe I could use that to my advantage? I guess. Figured I'll try to make it convincing, or whatever. Is that all? I kept my voice quiet as to not break her concentration. Nice color pairing too. She said more to the air than to me. Seeing this a decent opportunity to slink away to my room, I slowly backed towards the door. My hand was on the knob about to twist when Carla suddenly spun about and jumped towards me. Where do you think you're going, sweetheart? You have to model it for me. Red alert. That wasn't part of the deal, Carla. Carla batted her lashes in a mock attempt at looking innocent. Oh, so you can't do a favor for your loving, kind-hearted big sister, but you'll doll yourself up like a princess if Starboy asks? It's not like that. I caught myself yelling before quickly quieting down a bit. Both of us sat and waited to make sure Dad hadn't notices, but the only commotion we heard downstairs was the news station rattling off. I continued my protest in hushed tones. I just promised myself I wouldn't wear stuff like that again. What part of blackmail do you not understand? You can't just leave me hanging like this, or else Mom, Dad, and Instagram are gonna find out too. Put it on. I'm not letting you ruin my life like that, sis. Must have been a bad night to get you so spooked a bra. Tell me all about it while we get you pampered, sis. I groaned my hardest that day as Carla dragged me by the hand back to her bed and into my nightmares once again. Geez, Benji, hold still, unless you want liner smears all over your face. Carla was standing above me, mascara in hand, as she swiftly moored to my half-finished complexion. I was held captive, sitting at her vanity in a recreation of my weekend look, few slight alterations from to Carla's critical eye. Another weak rebuttal stumbled out of my mouth. I don't want any of this, you know that. In truth, the fight had long since been beaten out of me, as I was resigned to my fate of being her personal mannequin for a few more agonizing minutes. My head was drooping to the side though, as I was exhausted from school earlier and all this unnecessary girl time was cutting heavily into my sleeping and eating schedule, not to mention homework. Carla didn't seem too bothered by the lapsed time though, diligently straightened folds and untangling my hair into prim and proper shape. Whatever kick she was on after discovering my secret, she was having way too much fun with it. I feared that might not be the last time she has me at her vanity. You've said it at least 1,000 times in the past 20 minutes, so sure, although I kinda doubt that. Just look how cute you are already. Who wouldn't want to see this in the mirror every day? Just get it over with. I could have sworn it didn't take me this long the first time. Okay, now for the finishing touch. You said use the lip gloss before? Well, I have this rosewater satin lipstick which would work wonders on maximizing your pout, or this berry lip stain that gels better with the red of the headband. Which do you prefer? Does it matter? The first one, I guess. Rosewater it is then. Good choice, perhaps I misjudged your taste too soon. Pucker up, please. Carla squeezed my cheeks together and swiped the lipstick on, with me hating every second of it. Once she found them sufficiently waxy, she spun my chair around and made confront my reflection. And there she was, Bella anew. Similar enough what I looked like before, but I couldn't help but notice some small improvements. My lips did indeed seem fuller, and Carla's cosmetic skills had tapered away more of the harsh angles my chin. Although, the miserable expression on my face stifled the glamour a bit. Carla wasn't put off by that though, and instead admired her handiwork with oh so aggravating glee. Like the sister I never had. Gosh, why hadn't we done this before? Your positivity stunning, Cinderella. Even I might be a little envious. Of course I didn't already know the truth, that is. I stood up and started pacing the room, immediately itching to rip of it off. So graceful too, did you practice in heels for this? I tried my best to ignore her teasing and pointed a question her way instead. That's it. I'm officially embarrassed to the core, happy now? Are we done here? I've got stuff to do too, you know? Not quite. You told me about the dare, but that doesn't explain the tickets being in my purse yet? When was this torture going to end? Okay, yes, Rich and I went to the fair together with me dressed like this. And no, I didn't plan to, I just kinda fell into it. After he took me out to driving practice, he figured we should swing by the fair for a spell. I told him a million times that I'd rather die than be seen out in public like this, but I guess it didn't register through his thick skull. Well, considering I haven't heard back from the authorities that A, you died or B, a boy was caught snooping around the fair in his sister's clothes, it sounds like the night was a success, right? Well, partially. I didn't get caught or anything. I'd blame more on the poorly lighting there than anything, but I'd hardly call it a success. Why not? Oh, did something go sour between you and Starboy? I sensed some vitriol towards him from you earlier, that's one way to put it. Let's just things went too far, and we aren't exactly on speaking terms right now. Carla's sly smile was suddenly replaced by a stern grimace. Benji, she uttered in an affectionate but serious tone, her arms crossed. If Rich touched you or done anything inappropriate to last night without your permission, don't be embarrassed to tell me or anyone. Jokes aside, if he hurt you in any way I can sis, simmer down. I'm okay, Rich would never do anything like that. I'm fine, honest. What I was trying to say is that Rich may have gotten too caught up in the dare and may have forgotten I was wearing a costume, that's all. And what does that mean exactly? Said Carla, still on alert mode. Well. I paused for a moment, hesitating on where this train of thought would end up at. For what it's worth, my dressing right now may have sated Carla's lust vengeance against me. In fact, she seemed to be taking the whole Bella thing rather well, even complimenting my style choice. Perhaps she could be more understanding than I thought. The mess between Rich and me, I wasn't sure I could untangle it all on my own. This wasn't how I envisioned this conversation going, but maybe Carla might have some useful advice on the matter. Better yet, the drama might distract her attention away from publicly shaming me any further. At least for now. I settled alongside her on the bed, my ankles now killing me from my rapid, needless strutting in heels. Well, to keep up appearances, Rich and I sort of pretended we were a couple. You know, to blend in better with the crowd. And so, we ended up standing close to each other. Some hugging, a few stray touches here and there, but nothing that meant anything really. In that outfit, it'll be tough for any boy to resist putting their hands on you. Again, nice choice. I bet Starboy was flustered by you the whole night, wasn't he? Images of Rich's profuse blushing that day sprang to mind as I suddenly realized just how many warning signs I totally ignored. Was I really this clueless? Quiet, Carla, please. That wasn't my intention at all, it's just that. I didn't really mind the extra attention at first. The truth is, I was having a great time with Rich up until the end. How'd it go south then? He, kissed me. Kissed you? Like a SOSO kiss? Or a kiss? It only lasted for a couple of seconds, and he apologized immediately afterwards, but yeah, it was a real kiss. Or it seemed to be, I'm not so sure. God, that was my first kiss ever. We went home immediately after that. So, that's why you two aren't on talking terms right now. I thought you said he apologized, you didn't accept it? No, I did. If it was just a one-time thing, we could have ignored it and played it off as accident or a spur-of-moment joke. But then I kissed him again on the way out. I buried my face into my palms, tears bawling down my face, ruining Carla's hard work of my face. Everything messed up. Rich won't see me the same way ever again. We can't be friends anymore, Carla. How am I ever gonna explain what happened there when I don't even know myself? Carla gave a minute to cry myself out, as clearly, I'd been holding back a tidal wave of guilt all day. I felt a warm hand fall upon the small of my back as mascara-stained tears bleed in the comforter beneath me. After the sobbing had quieted down, Carla piped up again with her most ridiculous question yet. So, did you like it? What? The kiss. Did you like it? Why you would even ask that? Can't you see I'm a mess right now? I know, but an important part of the healing process in looking where we went wrong and being honest with ourselves. You can repair what you once had until you understand where it broke apart. But, I said, wiping at my puffy eyes with shaky hands. Carla pulled out a white handkerchief seemingly out of nowhere and handed it to me. I nodded a thank you, dabbed away at my face for a moment and continued. But it's such a silly question. I'm a guy. I'm not supposed to like kissing other guys, and I never wanted to before. And yet, I did. And I can't stop thinking about how wonderful that moment felt. How obviously wrong, yet torturously sweet that kiss was. I fully lost control of myself there, Carla. I can never let that happen again. But Rich doesn't get it. He thinks there's something there which totally shouldn't be. I tried to break the truth to him, that whatever he thinks is happening between us can never be, but he's still hanging on. He still sees me a girl that doesn't exist. And even worse, I can't see him in the same light either. Little shivers of temptation run up spine just from eye contact. It's hell. I can't handle this. I feel like there's this ticking time bomb between us. That eventually this catastrophic urge will sneak up on us again and I won't be able to stop myself. I just want to go back to friends with him, Carla. I just want to go back to being normal, that's all. I found myself panting, out of breath when my frantic rambling finally came to an end. Wow, did I really just admit all that to her? I hadn't even realized I'd felt that way, but now that it was out there, I knew it was 100% true. I had like that kiss, and I did have some unexplainable feelings for Rich. But I also knew those feelings would send me astray on a path I just couldn't follow. After 15 years of thinking I was myself, I can't abandon all that after only one hectic night, could I? Gosh, Carla must think I'm a loon for sure now. Speaking of, I noticed I hadn't heard a response from her yet, not even a murmur of support. Looking up, I saw her up and about, pacing the room like had. I was suddenly nervous. Did I say something wrong? Does she hate me now that I've laid it all bare, that her brother may harbor some volatile homosexual thoughts and she can't abide by that? Or could she not figure anything out to help? Maybe she considering telling our parents, possibly sending for a therapist. I didn't need that, did I? The less people know about this the better. It was already a gamble to put this much trust in her in the first place. Maybe it was mislaid. I'm sorry, Carla, for all this. It's getting late, and I should get out of her hair now. I'm just going to go to wash up and head to bed, if you don't mind. Carla held a hand to stop me and smiled, the trademark twinkling eyes at full blast. Benji, thanks for being so honest with me. I may have a plan to help you out of this. A solid one at that. I know a thing or two about rejecting a boy's advances, although I never expected I'll have to share them with you. Really? Thank you so much, Carla, that means the world to me. I have two conditions though. One, whatever I say, you have to follow through till the end, else I won't help you again. That worried me a bit, but I had no choice. I was already at her mercy anyways, and Carla sounded supremely confident right now. Sure, I'm getting nowhere fast on my own. 2, and this is the big one, are you sure don't want to explore anything between you and Rich? I'm not saying you should, it's up to you ultimately. However, I will say that I won't judge you at all if you lean the other way, I'll always love you regardless of your choice. Please, Carla, I need this dead and dealt with. Very well, first let's. Carla and I jumped as we heard Dad's clap his hands together from behind the door. Carla, Benjamin, dinner's ready. I made lasagna. Thanks goodness I locked the door, whispered Carla, palpable relief on her face. Shoot, we'll talk about this later. You need to start looking more like a Benjamin and less like a Cinderella. I'll distract Dad. Thanks, Carla. Oh please, the pleasure is all mine. I just love solving a good mystery. And oh, boy, this is gonna be the most fun I've had all year. She stuck her neck out the door and yelled back, "I'll be down in a second, Dad. Get is before it's cold." I made garlic bread too. Damn, my favorite. I nodded thanks once more before deftly making my escape into the bathroom. My outlook on things suddenly felt a bit brighter, and I even noticed a small smile had snuck up on me after seeing my reflection in the mirror. So, for the time being, my secret was safe with Carla, and I even had a chance of getting my old friendship back with Rich. Phew! Worry still lingered about what exactly this plan would entail, but for the first time that day, I had some hope for the future. Bella smiled back at me, which was ironic considering I had every intention of wiping her from existence once and for all. Yet, I noticed her smile did seem a little wider, a little more pleasant on her face than my usual one. It bothered me how much I liked it. Operation Shutdown Rich was set into motion the following day. I was as nervous and on edge marching into school as I was yesterday, however now I wasn't entirely on my own. I had a game plan in mind to both win back my friend and let him down gently, which was a far cry better than before. Although didn't completely agree with Carla on the details, I had no better alternative ready, and the more time this took, the more I felt my only real friendship was slipping farther and farther from my reach. Miraculously, I had found a way to squeeze in time for some assignments last night, letting me breeze through my other classes. However, I hadn't practiced for band, making me the one needing assistance today. But that was fine, that was part of the plan. It gave me a lead-in to speak with Rich, who had been failing to ignore me as soon as I walked it, yet hesitant to speak up. Under the pretense of going over the new material, I asked if Rich wanted to hang out at the mall after school today. Although apprehensive at first, he must have seen it was good opportunity to talk out our private matters and agreed. I declined his offer to ride with him there though. The thoroughly confused look on his face prompted me to add an excuse of dropping off a few library books. He didn't to push me any further on it, probably fearing I might snap at him again. Rich asked me to text him my location when I get there to meet up. Poor guy, I was way too vile to him yesterday, it wasn't his fault. Well, I mean, it was. He is totally one to blame, but he wasn't the only one. I didn't mean to curse him out like that, I was just in too fragile of a mental state. But I was going to make it up to him today big time, I promised to myself as I headed over to parking lot and regrouped with Carla. Phase 1 complete, on to Phase 2. I rode home with her in one of her friend's car, a cramped teal convertible. I didn't recognize the driver, but apparently she was one of Carla's BFFs, Cassandra, I think her name was. Anyways, Carla hadn't told her the full story yet, so she spent the whole ride trying to wring it out of the two of us. Thankfully, Carla rebuffed most of the attempts for me. Gosh, she really was keeping to her word, wasn't she? She said she was doing it for fun, but that couldn't be the whole story. I wonder how much I'll owe her after all this is said and done. Something even more steep than my dignity, no doubt, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. For now, I needed to steel myself for the task ahead. We made it home at 3 and I left the house at 4:30, walking a fair way away to the nearest bus stop alone. I normally avoided taking the city bus at all costs, my social anxiety couldn't handle the proximity of fellow students, let alone complete strangers. However, I had to bite the bullet in order to arrive at the mall on time. Wary of wayward glances as I stepped aboard, I stared straight down into my phone screen and sent a short message to Rich. Arriving soon, hope you didn't waiting long, no biggie, brought along a script to read, really, taking homework to the mall? LOL, hey, not my idea to hang out on a school night. What's up with that anyways? It's a surprise. I talk about it when I get there. Meet you at Reese's, okay? K. Benji. Chimes rang out above me, signaling the bus finally making it to River Rush Shopping Center, my stop. Summoning my courage, I gingerly stepped off and made my entrance into the mall in a hurry. I did my best to appear not unlike the jittery bundle of nerves I felt it was as I headed towards our rendezvous point. Finding a close-by bench to rest at, I texted Rich my arrival, sat back, and waited in pure terror. I had forgotten to pack a paper bag in case I started hyperventilating from the stress. However, it wasn't long until I spotted Rich's blonde hair sticking out amongst the crowd, heading this way. I stayed seated, as phase 3 of the plan was about to commence. This is the critical part, and I had not to screw up my lines. I had practiced them repeatedly with Carla before I'd left, but the adrenaline spike I was riding right then was blanking out my mind a bit. All I could focus on was Rich walking closer towards my bench, scanning around for his friend Benji. But he never found him. Instead, he found me. I slipped my phone back into my little black saddlebag and clasped it shut as I stood up. I started walking towards him, the 4-inch black ankle strap heels I was borrowing clacking against the floor tiles with each step. My toes and fingers were adorned in navy blue polish to match the knit cardigan I wore on top of a black The Moody Blues tee. This time instead of a skirt, I had on white capris that barely managed to reach the top of my ankles. Carla had picked these out due to how the AC always tends to be blasted at max at River Rush, and I'd solemnly obliged. My hair was tied in a short ponytail. My bangs were lightly brushed to the side to reveal more of Carla's expertly done craft at makeup. She insisted on a casual, yet determined look for the evening, whatever that meant. My lips were coated in a dark burgundy, my eyelashes were fluffed out the max, and my small diamond clip-ons weightless on my ears. And despite the stark contrast from my previous outfit, one glance in Reese's storefront window reassured was still as convincing as ever. Rich had stopped dead in his tracks, eyes blinking profusely, jaw hanging out as if he had just seen a ghost. Bella, he stuttered. I posed meekly in front of him as his eyes darted around in a million places at once, all of them on my person. Why are you here? Because I told you I'll be here, duh. I say in that sing-song feminine tilt I somewhat loathed, despite how good I was getting at it. Or, more accurately, because of how good I was getting at it. Don't tell me you forgot my invitation? That's not what I meant. I mean, why are you dressed as a girl again? I thought you said dropping the playtime act. I held a manicured hand in front of his face to halt him. Yeah, and it still holds, although I'm sorry I vented at you in such a rude manner yesterday. I was going through a lot, yet neglected that you must have been struggling yourself. Forgive me, please. The truth is, I didn't mind kissing you the other day. In fact, I found myself enjoying it a whole lot, and that's my problem. I can't do the Bella act forever, Richie, so I don't think whatever there is between us will be going anywhere further than that night. I'm a guy, and I plan on staying that way. You're the best friend I've ever had, and I want us to stay friends forever. But just friends, okay? If any sign of disappointment had registered on Rich's face, it was quickly shaken off and replaced with a big, warm smile. Yeah, no harm done. I totally want to stay friends too, dude. Didn't mean to suggest anything by saying I liked the kiss. You were pretty shaken up last I saw you, and I just wanted to make you sure we're okay. Relief flooded through me, my pent-up stress dissolving into a wash of bubbly warmth. I had my friend back. Or rather, he never left to begin with. I was just too caught up in my own head to realize that until now. A goofy grin spread across face, and in my giddiness, I leapt up and hugged him. Rich was taken aback, not knowing what to do as my arms wrapped around his neck. He gave a light squeeze back, but then dropped his arms and mumbled, "Bella, thanks, but your bra's poking my ribs a bit." Suddenly realizing that I just thrusted us into another awkward situation, I quickly scrambled off him and tried to compose myself. I glanced around, fearing that someone might have seen us and gotten the wrong assumption. Rich chuckled, "You know, for a chick who just rejected me, you're awfully clingy." "Sorry again, sorry. I had a lot of guilt weighting down on my chest since then, and I'm just extremely glad you don't hate me right now," I said quietly. "As if I would ever hate you, dude," said Rich, still laughing. "I'm the one who should be glad they aren't hated. Who else am I gonna find who'd put up with my dumb wagers?" I started snickering too, and soon we were on our way, walking down the mall's corridor toward nowhere in particular. As I pranced alongside him, Rich casted a curious look toward me. "Speak of chests, you still haven't told me why you're in a bra right now?" he asked jovially. "Oh, yeah. Well, this wasn't mostly my idea. Carla talked me into it. She mentioned something about guys responding better to getting let down when you tell it them in person. In truth, she thought Rich was such a blunderhead that he needed to hear a rejection from Bella herself, not Benji. Obviously, I omitted that part. "Wait, you told hotshot Carla? And she didn't tattle on you for using her stuff, or kill you?" "Holy shit! I didn't mean to tell, she sleuthed it out on her own. But yeah, I probably own her a big one, and she knows it. Also, hotshot Carla isn't gonna take off. Please stop forcing it." "Come on, I have to fire back? You hear what she and her friends call me? It totally ruins your rep when the school's elites have cutesy nicknames for ya. I understand, but you've earned yours, Starboy, and it's suitably infantilizing. Unlike hotshot, which might as well be a compliment to her. Come up with a better one and maybe I'll play along with it more." "Fine, I'll drop it for now. I guess I have to thank her too, since I imagine this new number you're wearing from her as well. Everything but the shirt, that's mine. What do you think? Convincing enough? It'll need to be for later." I stopped in place and twirled about, a maneuver I never imagined myself doing in public in a million years. Wow, why was I feeling so happy and lighthearted right now? After the dumpster that my mood has been in, my brain must be pumping serotonin about at record pace to make up for lost time. I felt light a feather as Rich ogled me again. "You do look cute," he said slowly, then he shook his head in a panic. "Wait, can I say that? Is that too weird?" I giggled. "As long as you don't get any silly ideas, you're fine." "Thank you, by the way. So where are we off to now?" "Beats me. You're the one who sent the invitation, so I figured we're at the mall on a Tuesday for a reason." "Wait, don't tell me we're going clothes shopping. If so, I'm out of here." "Relax, I haven't turned full girl on you. I'm still me, your buddy, and although you may have struck out today, it won't be your only chance." "What the hell do you mean by that? Remember when we were discussing how to get girls' numbers? When you wished had an inside scoop as what which girl is into before you asked? Well, that's where I come in. I'm not really following. Think of me as your wingman, or rather wingwoman. I'll go in first, do a bit of girl talk, get to know what she likes and doesn't like, then I'll slip you into the convo and see if she's interested. Listen, as Bella, I have a unique opportunity to interact with women in a different way, one in which they won't immediately blow my attempts off, unlike with you. Rich rested his hands on his hips, feigning anger at my little jab at him. Hey, come on. I'm not that terrible. Hell, you're even worse. I've never once seen you walk up to a lady and have a conversation. I had to force you to even say hi to that one girl at Chester's bar mitzvah. How do you think you're going to pull this caper off? Carla gave me a few tips on what to say before I left. Complimenting a girl's hair or outfit is an easy way to spur on some chit-chat, and then I'll target some interests from there. I'll be fine, trust me. I put on a brave face for Rich, but on the inside the turmoil was boiling up again. Carla had given me more than a few points. She had lectured an entire semester's worth of female etiquette knowledge, as if I could cram it all in before the test. However, I was fearful that I'd already forgotten some of the finer points she listed. It was hard enough remembering how to walk in these heels, how to swing my hips in a natural manner, or not to hide my face constantly when in public. Asking me to successfully sell the prospect of dating Rich to strangers was almost too much. But I had to do it, for his sake and mine. The best way to guarantee Rich and I don't repeat another incident again was for him to hook up with someone else. And since it's my fault we're in this mess, I had to be the one to solve it. I squared up and marched forward into the food court with renewed determination. Rich trailed along, still with some lingering questions. Okay, say we do this wing woman thing then, what should our story be? Cousins again? Richie, cousins is a terrible plan, that's why we never use it. We hardly even look related. Second cousins, twice removed? The more lies we have to keep track of, the more chances of slipping up. Let's just be as honest as we can. We're good friends from school hanging out for the afternoon, nothing wrong with that, is there? Hey, I already can see a potential candidate nearby by the pretzel stand. Come on, hurry up. And so, Rich and I scoured the mall together on the lookout for any lonely souls willing to waste their time with us. I took charge, on the prowl for boutique counters or dress stands, place where girls tended to gather around. From the endless conversations we've had on the subject in the past, I knew pretty well what Rich's preferences were, and I figured it shouldn't be too hard to find a few who matched. However, it was a Tuesday, so the pool of shoppers I had to pick from was quite shallow. Less people worked in my favor if just in case my charade was blown there was less of chance anyone I knew finding out, yet it still proved a hindrance. Luckily, of the few girls I did manage to talk to, striking up conversations was surprisingly not hard. I love those boots. Cute purse, or that would be dazzling on you, went a long way. Soon, I was making small talk with girls I'd never would have had the guts to make eye contact with before. When they would ask about me, I gave a few tidbits about my school life or outfit, but I needed to avoid too many direct questions. Carla said the number one topic people love to talk about was themselves, and boy was she right. One lady went on endlessly about her dog-sitting job, another wouldn't stop arguing on whether MAC or Revlon matched her complexion better, and one saw me as an opportunity to go on a tirade about her 2 previous breakups. I was quickly learning that girl talk wasn't all giggles and gossip, it was an onslaught. The most I could do was nod and pretend to follow along. Eventually, though, I'd point towards Rich, usually loitering by the entrance of whatever shop we were at, and introduce him as a friend of mine. I'd gush about his acting talent, talk up his sax playing, remark on how funny and sincere he was, then casually toss in that he's currently single. I thought I had made a pretty persuasive pitch for him, yet sadly my offer kept getting rejected. Either they already had a boyfriend or politely declined, saying they weren't looking for the playboy type. I switched up by tactics, hammering in Rich was looking a steady relationship, not a fling, but I think that just scared them off even faster. Resorting to more drastic measures, I remarked on how handsome Rich, focusing on his bleach blonde hair, rugged chin, and hazel eyes. Yet this just confused things further, and they would start asking why wasn't I dating him if he was such a catch. I didn't have much of an answer for that, so I'd just chalk up my loss and sheepishly say my goodbyes. Rich didn't seem to mind my lack of success all that much though. Whenever I'd trudge back to tell him of another failed pursuit, he'd always just smile and switch topics on me. In between flirts, Rich would lead me to one of our regular hangouts throughout the mall. We played a few rounds of air hockey at the arcade, browsed through the game store, and grabbed a bite to eat at the juice bar. We fell into the regular groove of old friends, shooting the breeze together and enjoying our young lives. And yet, the more time spent with Rich, the more I realized my perception of him had changed. I just could stop thinking of him as a potential boyfriend. I guess all that talk about his good points had made me even more aware of them, and then some. If our hands had accidentally met while playing a game, electricity would spark across my skin, prickling up goosebumps. When we'd get too close, I could smell his sandalwood cologne. His smile alone would send tingles down my spine. Just like at the fair, I was having terrible thoughts. Despite clearing the air between us, I was still a compromised mess. I must put this Bella persona to rest, and the sooner I find Rich a girlfriend, the faster I'll be rid of these wretched thoughts. I hope marigold rays of light beamed down on the marble benches surrounding the center promenade. We sat there, me resting my weary feet and Rich polishing off the last of his smoothie. He squinted at his phone screen as he held in the waning light of the setting sun. "It's 7:30, Bella," he sighed, pocketing his phone away. "I appreciate the royal effort you've put in today, but I think it's time to call it quits." I tilted my head up, my back still laying across the bench. "Wait, we can't call it quits now. We haven't gotten one number yet. I can't let you go back empty-handed." Rich shrugged. "Some days you just strike out." "It's fine, I'm used to it and I'm already over it. Besides, I'm not going home empty-handed. I got to spend more time with you, and I wouldn't pass that up for anything in the world." I'd admit, that sentiment tugged at my heartstrings a little, yet I wondered if the you Rich was referring to as me in general or specifically Bella. I sat up and reached down for my purse, preparing to head home. However, in a small record shop across the hall, I spotted a young cashier blowing bubble gum at the checkout stand. Rich and I didn't visit that place too often despite our shared passion music. We normally purchased all our albums online. Thus, I had overlooked this cute, blonde, and somewhat punkish-looking cashier in my quest. Yeah, she seemed to fit all of Rich's, admittedly wide, taste in ladies. Could she be the one? "Come on, I'll drop you off at home." My truck's parked near the sporting goods shop, I think. "Hey, hold up." I gestured at the music shop to draw his attention. "Don't you think that cashier looks cute?" Rich brought a hand over his eyes to block out the sun rays. "Oh, you mean the one in the black polo with the big tits?" I shot Rich a glare for his brash phrasing, but he didn't care. Which made me suddenly wonder why I cared. "Are you gonna try her? She's your type, isn't she?" "I don't really have a type, but yeah, she's hot." "Isn't it kinda lame to ask a chick out while she's working though?" I read somewhere that it's like goading someone into something while they're trapped, unable to escape till their shift's over. It might be a faux pas for a dude to do that, but perhaps not between women? Still, it's kinda late and she probably tired. Let's just dash enough with that quitter's attitude, Richie. This will be our final shot, let's make it count. I leapt up to feet and started walking over towards my target. Over my shoulder I shouted back, and for the love God, please try to look cool and not half dead when I point back at you, okay? Rich muttered something, but I couldn't hear it as I stepped inside the music shop, where the overhead speakers were blaring a metal track I didn't recognize. The clerk in question didn't take any notice of my arrival. She was sitting at the counter, idly thumbing through an issue of Billboard. Perfect, maybe she's bored enough to think over my proposal. I browsed through the aisle of records and CDs, figuring it'll be best if I pretended to buy something first. It was a quite small shop, tucked in a nook and overshadowed by the neighboring Macy's, but I found that it held a surprisingly decent selection of tracks. I gravitated towards the alt-rock shelves and found a CD copy of Yes' debut which Rich would have loved. Making my way to the counter, I noted a name tag pinned to her left lapel. Rosalind, huh? Pretty name, although her appearance didn't strike me as very rosy. Up close, I realized her hair was platinum blonde, with brunette roots peeking through. Her nails were long, narrow, and polished in pitch black. Her thorns, perhaps? Dark eyeliner and deep purple lipstick adorned her face, along with a few silver piercings. She looked at least 19, and I started to worry that she was way above Rich's league. I almost gave up there, shuffled back to return the CD until she spoke up. "Welcome to Heat Street," she said, ignoring that I've been roaming the joint for a few minutes already. "Ready to buy?" "Oh, me?" I blurted out, like an airhead. "Who else?" Her voice was dry with a hint of rasp to it. Sarcasm and disdain embedded from it. Rich's chances were looking slimmer and slimmer. I tried laughing off my stumble. "Ha ha, yeah. These two, please?" "Damn it, keep it together, girl, I mean dude." "Sure thing, I'll ring you up right now." "Big fan of the 70s stuff, I take it?" She nodded towards my band tee, which I totally forgot I was wearing. "Oh, yeah. I guess the top kind of gives it away. Progressive is a favorite of mine, for sure, but I'm basically into anything loud and rhythmic from any era. Do you have any favorites?" "You're listening to one right now." She pointed over to a phone held a charging dock behind the counter. I could see a music playlist loaded up on it, and I figured the dock must have been linked to the store speakers. "Have you heard of Battles? They're pretty sick, as you can plainly tell. A huge inspiration of mine." "Inspiration? You play?" "Of course, I do. You're looking at the best bass player in the Central Valley. At least at the amateur level. Even have my own band." "Wow, that's so cool." "I play a little myself, but nothing as cool as a guitar. Just clarinet in the school orchestra for now. Maybe I learn something better later." "Music's music, ma'am. Playing the clarinet is nothing to be ashamed of. Although, my band's really not scouting for a wind section at the moment. We're called Onomatopoeia, only started just last year, but I got a mixtape if you want to give it a listen." She pulled a loose manila sleeve from her hoodie's pocket, with a burnt CD labeled 8 on it. "Thank you. My name's Bella, by the way. Also, your nails are marvelous. Where did you get them done?" "Rosalind, and I appreciate it. I did them myself, just right now actually." "What, on your break?" She chuckled to herself. "Nah, not many people enter this shop these days. Streaming cut hard into the physical industry, and now whatever walk-in traffic we get is usually from vinyl hipsters who wouldn't know an 8-track from a hit clip. No offense. None taken? But yeah, This place is most likely going out of business soon. In the meantime, the boss man lets me do basically whatever I want, like picking the background ambience, for example, or dabbing in some new polish in between customers. The pay isn't spectacular, but it's a pretty sweet gig while it lasts. Okay, so far so good. I managed to hold on, and despite her standoffish demeanor initially, she'd been leading the entire conversation so far. Now maybe it was time to steer things my way. I still had my mission at hand, but perhaps I should take a less direct approach. Still you must get pretty bored here alone. Do any of your friends or bandmates pop in? A boyfriend? Occasionally to drop off a few more mixtapes, but you're right, it does get a bit too tame around here. And no, I'm single, if that's what you're getting at. Rosalind smirked. Well, if you have some free time tonight, I have a friend who would actually, I have to close up the shop right now, so I don't really have time tonight. She interrupted. But I'll tell you what, Bella. Since you're quickly becoming my favorite customer of the year, I'll let you in on a little secret. My band has a gig booked at a house party this Saturday. A tiny venue, but they said we're allowed to bring guests. She raised an eyebrow at me, as if she were testing my bravado. Up for it? That sounds awesome. We'd love to come to your set. We? She asked, clearly confused. Oh, yeah. My friend, Rich over there by the fountain, is he your boyfriend or something? Caution lined her voice. She tilted her head past me to inspect him. Rich was watching the whole thing, cross-legged on a bench. When he noticed Rosalind's piercing glare, he nervously waved back. Darn, in my excitement I totally forgot to introduce him. No wonder she's freaking out. I needed to explain myself quickly before she rescinded her invitation. No, we aren't an item or anything. Far from it, he's just a friend of mine, totally single. It's fine if he comes along, right? I can call him over if you want to meet him. The more the merrier, I suppose. He'd have to buy his own ticket though, each member is only allowed one extra. She shrugged, then an alarm buzzed on her phone. Sorry, but my shift's ending in 3 minutes. I better start packing away the stuff. She passed me my purchases and receipt with a phone number scrawled across it. Call me later, K Bella? I'll text you the address. The stuff. I clutched the receipt to my chest as if all my prayers were answered on it. Will do. See you Saturday, Rosalind. Later. She waved me off as I practically pranced out of the store and down towards Rich, him now standing and tapping his foot. So, how did it go, Casanova? We finally did it. You got a date this Saturday, bro. I beamed. What, really? Sweet, how did you pull that off? Should I go up and talk to her then? Oh man, I don't even know her name. Well, no, she has to close up right now, and as if on cue, the shop's lights went off behind me. However, Rosalind, that's her name by the way, said we're invited to a party she's playing at. She has her own band. Isn't that rad? Oh man, she's so cool and down to earth too, totally different from the ones from our school. She even gave me a copy of some of her songs if you want to listen. Rich cut into my gabbling. Wait, did you just say we're invited? Yeah, weird right? The biggest party we've ever been to or the occasional birthday as kids. This one's gonna huge. There might be college students there. Right, and she expecting you to come along too? The both of us? That doesn't sound much like a date, Belle. Rich's questioning tone was putting damper our victory. What are you getting at, Richie? Think about it, for a minute, will ya? She gave you her number, you the CDs, you the invitation, and seemingly asked nary a question about me? Does that not concern you at all? Look, if you think I'm gonna cramp your style, relax. I'll just introduce the two of you together and step back for the rest of it. But you know what that means, right? She gonna be expecting you there. The current you. Oh. The pieces started clicking together. Rosalind didn't invite Rich, or me for that matter. She invited Bella. And now, if this meetup was gonna happen for Rich, I'll have to show up. At a party. With dozens of people in attendance. Drat. What have I gotten myself into again?